Did you ever think you would make it? I feel I'm so close, I could taste sweet victory. I know this life meant for me.
Adam, what's your point? The future looks bright.
My handshake is better than anything I ever saw. It's right here.
You are a one-of-one?
My son's right about
I
it.
don't think I've ever said this before.
All right, guys, I got out of chapel this morning. I learned a couple fun facts. I learned the fact that, as a Middle Eastern, we are known for having big noses, but I found that Lady Liberty's nose was 6 feet long.
really?
Respect. Fun fact. Second fact.
Fun.
When you would go into George Washington's home, he liked to greet you by bowing.
Really?
Very interesting. The first president liked to bow when you would go into his house. I did not know that. Interesting, fun fact. Anyways, we're getting smarter, folks. We got Rob in the house. Okay, Rob Smith's in the house, and he's on Connect. Any questions you got, you can ask him. But we got a lot of stories we're going to be covering today on the episode 558. I haven't yet had any chance to talk about the State of the Union. I think we did an unusual that a couple guys talked about. Did you guys end up doing it that night or no?
We didn't, but yesterday we did a whole
reaction
thing on,
to it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get into it. There's a lot of thoughts, a lot of commentary. One observation I made that maybe if none of the guys cover it, I'll bring it up. I thought it was an interesting thing Trump did that he had never done before. And in the interim, let me kind of cover with you some of the stories. So, of course, we're going to talk about the State of the Union. Of course, we're going to talk about Al Green getting kicked out of a nightclub. Like it looked like it had happened before to him. Yes, MSNBC host said Democrats at the Trump speech, the signs are not landing. It was so bad that even Stephen Colbert did something on it saying, try something out, because they're just not doing good right now. They're kind of struggling. They need a CMO. They need a corporate executive marketing guru to come out and say, hey, this is the way to change your strategy because it's not landing with anybody. There was very weird moments. One moment where Trump looks at Pocahontas about Ukraine and she keeps clapping and he says, there you go, Pocahontas wants another 5 years. There was some shots. There was some interesting moments, some very unique moments, and I was surprised that they didn't stand up for anything, including Lakin. Nothing. They didn't stand up for nothing. Lower taxes, no taxes for tips. No. Nothing. They were literally not celebrating nothing, which was kind of weird. So imagine the people that are voting for them, how they're thinking about that. You didn't stand up for that? You didn't stand up for that? Okay. Maybe some of them support it. It was just not a good look. Then while he's giving a speech, he says, moments ago, Zelenskyy sends us a letter wanting to negotiate. President Zelenskyy, we appreciate you reaching out. And then I talked to Russia. They also want to find a peace talk, et cetera, et cetera. So who knows what that's going to lead into. But that was in the speech that he gave. Trudeau says U.S. wants to collapse Canada's economy with tariffs. This guy is so funny. He's talking about don't buy their products, don't go to Florida, all these weird types of things. China warns it's ready for any type of war. Let me say it again. China says they're ready for any type of war as Trump's tariffs go into effect. Fight till the end. Mexico says it'll impose retaliatory tariffs on U.S. with details coming Sunday. Yet they released and gave 28 cartel members to U.S., something they've never done before. If you're acting so tough, why are you giving those guys up to U.S.? Because maybe, is it tough on the outside, but on the inside you're scared? Which one is it? We'll find that out. Major threat to the American dream, making it harder to buy a home. We'll talk about that. BlackRock strikes a deal to bring ports on both sides of Panama Canal under American control. BlackRock also is saying we're out of DEI because it's not working, and they were one of the biggest ESG DEI companies. Stephen A. Smith goes on The View. They ask him a question, and he says, I'm not one that's a Trump supporter, but I'm for the truth. And let me tell you what the truth is, and you have to hear what he said next. Democrats' answer to Joe Rogan loses a lucrative gig. That's just a funny one, but we'll cover it.
Yeah.
Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate, after they left here, it was a mess all over the place. First Ron DeSantis said some words about it. Then Byron Donalds was asked about it. Then the, AG came in. There's just a lot of stuff that's going on. We'll cover that to kind of see what perspective we have on that. Ben Shapiro launches asking Trump to pardon former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin. And Elon Musk retweeted it. And it was kind of interesting seeing what's going on there. Disney to cut nearly 6% of staff across ABC, Disney Entertainment Networks. Goldman Sachs set to axe underperformers and latest latest layoffs. And then last but not least, LA wildfire. Email proves that Karen Bass knew critical fire risk before LA mayor skipped off to Africa. Nicole Shanahan funds recall efforts to get rid of Mayor Bass. There's just a bunch of stuff with Mayor Bass. Not a good look for what she had going on there. Of course, we'll talk about Tate. Weekly mortgage demand surges 20% higher after interest rates drops to the lowest since last year. And Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson testifies in D.C. at sanctuary hearing. Okay, so a couple things. For those of you that are watching the podcast now, if you go download Connect, the app, and you join PBD Podcast Circles, if you join the circle, what you get a chance to do, it's $50 a month. But everybody throughout the month gets to communicate together. Here's what we're going to be doing. All the notes that we look at, the way we write out the news and our research team is all in there. So if you go right now and join the circle, you're going to see all these notes in there. On top of that, you guys get to communicate with each other all day long, throughout the day, throughout the month. When stories happen, everybody posts there. We get to ask you what are some issues you want us to talk about on the podcast. And last but not least, after the podcast, we do a behind the scenes, what our takeaway was. We'll do it sometimes with some interviews, other things that we're doing. But go download the app, Manek, Rob, if you can put up the QR code up there. If you can download the app, by the way, the TV is off on here. If you can download the app and get that QR code, go to Manek, download the app, go to Circles PBD Podcast, join the Circle, see the notes, and then we'll be able to interact throughout the month. We're excited about. There's going to be a lot of unique surprises with Circle. Stay tuned. Aside from that, some big news for all of us. After a year and a half of trying to get permits of this city for the cigar lounge, after creating the sprinklers that they wanted in the ceiling for the cigar lounge, after getting the tobacco license, after getting the alcohol license, after getting the 2-bar set up, after getting all of it permitted into a club, comedy club, that's being launched here soon. And so for those of you that are wanting to be members of the cigar lounge, the boardroom, there's already 61 members. Okay, it's only 80 of them that we're talking about at the phase 1 that we're going through. And there's going to be an interesting guest showing up here soon to the Cigar Lounge, possibly for the grand opening. I can't tell you who that is, but, there's a lot of speculation who that could be. You can figure it out, but it's only for those who are members of the club. So if you want to submit an application to be considered, I look at every single application that comes into my hand. Rob, if we can put the website to go to for it. What is the website for the Cigar Lounge, by the way? Do you know what it's called?
BoardroomCigarLounge.com.
BoardroomCigarLounge.com. BoardroomCigarLounge.com. Rob, if you can put the link in chat as well, and the comment section and description. Go to it, submit your applications. And for those of you guys that smoke cigars that maybe you want to come ready for it, once you are a member, 100 of these are available for you to purchase. This is Valuetainment cigar accessories. Rob, if you can go to this so they can see it as well. In this, when you open it up, you have the ashtray, the Valuetainment ashtray. You have the Valuetainment lighter, and you have the Valuetainment cutter, okay? $74.95. Go to the website, vtmerch.com, and we are looking forward to seeing you come there with your lighter and with your, cutter. So again, vtmerch.com to get that. Anyways, let's get right into it. State of the Union speech. All right, so first of all, record-breaking. It is the longest State of the Union speech ever given. I think he beat, is it Bill Clinton's that he broke the record of?
He beat everybody.
He beat everybody's, but I think Bill Clinton was the second longest one. Now it's him being there, so he has the longest State of the Union speech, which is pretty interesting. He got up there and had a lot of things to say about it. Rob, I'm trying to get to kind of a clip to show, but I can't see anything here on the clip, so I'll just start off. Rob, what was your biggest takeaway watching him give the State of the Union? What difference did you notice with him than from the past? How his energy was, the things he talked about? What was your biggest takeaway?
My biggest takeaway, Trump was a changed man, all right? And I had brought this up to a lot of people that I was talking to and texting with back and forth during the State of the Union, is that this is somebody who was very statesmanlike, all right? And so we've seen States of the Union in the past with Trump. Sometimes things are a little bit more combative. Sometimes things are a little bit more rougher, rougher on the edges, because Trump can be sometimes. But this is very much statesmanlike. And this is somebody that does not care what Democrats think, that does not care what anybody thinks about him nowadays. And that's what I think the power of Trump 2.0 is. So I saw a lot of that, even when there were the disruptions from the Democrats, which we will get into. I'm sure that we all have a lot to say about that. I think that I have some ideas about that may be a little different from other people on the panel, but he looked at them like you would literally look at a misbehaving grandchild, because the theme of Trump 2.0 right now is that the adults are back in charge, the adults are back in the room, daddy's home, and I am going to tell you every single thing that we are accomplishing for the United States of America right now. So that's what it said to me. They are no longer trying to play games with Democrats. He is no longer sort of, trying to placate, to what CNN or the New York Times, et cetera, wants, because I think that one of the issues with Trump 1.0 is that he was almost a little too magnanimous in trying to work and operate with the left, and they took advantage of that. Now you have somebody that does not care. We are doing things that Republicans want done. I think, and I tweeted this yesterday, you can follow me on X at Rob Smith Online, that the changes that Trump 2.0 and the team are making right now are generational changes for this country and for the Republican Party. So I made that statement. I stand by it. That's what's different to me.
Very cool. All right. So, Rob, let's see this clip. If you have a clip that you can show us, which one is this? This is...
hold on one second. This is... where President Trump talks about some of the money that is going towards sedentary migrants in countries nobody's ever heard of. I also have where he honors a 13-year-old cancer survivor.
DJ Daniel.
We also have where he talks about not being able to make the Democrats happy.
Why don't you start off with Al Green first?
Okay.
Green trying to disrupt. So first they wanted to disrupt.
Which they planned, Pat. They planned on doing this. Didn't work.
Of course they did.
Didn't work at all.
Members are directed to uphold and maintain decorum in the House and to cease any further disruptions. That's your warning. Members are engaging in willful and continuing breach of decorum, and the chair is prepared to direct the Sergeant-at-Arms to restore order to the joint session.
Kick that. It's almost as if you wanted this. They wanted this to happen.
Of course.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So at the beginning, they were trying to create a disruption. The signs didn't land. Do you have a picture of the signs, Rob, where they're holding up the pictures of the signs?
Elon steals.
Yeah, Elon steals.
What is he stealing?
And then there was another one, Rob, that wearing the pink. Can you pull up the pink picture where they're all wearing pink dresses? It's, right there. Wear pink to support women. Yesterday, we voted for men to continue abusing women in sports. Just a very weird opening with Al Green. Rob, maybe show up another clip on what we have. If you can go to whichever one you got. Just play a couple of the highlights, and then we'll get into it.
The media and our friends in the Democrat Party kept saying we needed new legislation. We must have legislation to secure the border. But it turned out that all we really needed was a new president.
That's a mic drop.
Right.
Mic drop right there.
Whack. Bam.
So, Vinny, your thoughts on yesterday?
Well, on the whole, all around. I think it was, visionary. He talked about values. He talked about our freedom, individual responsibility, and common sense was the main one. But the biggest thing that pissed me off, and I get Pat, I understand. And me and Jake had a conversation. We get it. Sometimes they bring people in. Like, remember when he brought the alleged rape and sexual assault victims of Bill Clinton in the State of the Union? Because he wants to put these people out on blast, right?
Yeah.
But when it came to, like, for instance...
That was during a debate, by the way.
During a debate. I'm sorry, debate. Well, whatever.
It's all good. Yeah.
It's politics, it's props,
This
right?
is when Bill Clinton kind of looked like...
When you cannot stand... Laken Riley's mother and her sister are there, and you cannot stand... And at least, by the way... Give them a round of applause because she's dead. She was raped and murdered because of their policies, because of Joe Biden's open border, okay? Corey Coppertone, the guy, the fireman that was shot. You couldn't stand up for that. You couldn't stand up for Mark Fogel, who the only time they stood up was for Ukraine. That's all they stood up for. And the worst of them all, there's that 13-year-old kid, Pat, DJ Daniel, 13 years old. He's had 14 brain surgeries for cancer. The guy makes him an honorary Secret Service member. Dude, I got emotional during watching it. I could get emotional right now. He hugs the Secret Service agent. He's the happiest kid you've ever seen. And you can't stand and at least applaud that. Even if it was a test from Trump to see what they were going to do, you even failed that. Show camaraderie, show some unity that this freaking kid has gone through more shit than that they've ever gone through, and you couldn't stand for 2 seconds and clap for this kid. Unbelievable.
All right, Tom, your thoughts?
My thoughts is when I looked around the chamber, I was really disgusted This is a moment where our president comes together, and you don't have to agree with everything. And going back as long as we've had televised State of the Unions, sometimes the other side will sit with their hands in their lap, even cross their arms, even shake their heads. But they do it on particular points. You know, the Republicans did it to Clinton when Clinton turned around and handed Walter Mondale a mock-up of what would be a national health care card. Remember that scene? He turned around, handed Walter Mondale, and Republicans were like, no. Those things happen. But then we come together and we applaud the things that are applaudable. And when the other side sits there and won't even budge on anything, it is, to me, the definition of Trump derangement syndrome, where you so hate Trump, you are so incensed that you got your ass kicked in the election. You are so, just wrought with anger that you cannot applaud, a child who is suffering from cancers and is being recognized. You can't applaud a mother who lost a daughter. You can't applaud the fact that a girl is sitting there who we all saw hit with a 106-mile-an-hour spike, I believe it was. From a man who a couple days later says, yeah, maybe I'll play with the chicks. And you can't do that. You can't speak up. What it tells me is they're not Democrats. They're globalists. They're not pro-America. They are globalists. They are with the side of the UN, and they are anti-American, and they are socialist. I don't see any modicum of just appreciation for the country and to applaud a few things that are applaudable. You can't do that. So what does that say that you really are deep down inside? They're not in favor of this country. They're in favor of turning it into something else.
Adam, your thoughts?
Well, what's the famous phrase? If you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. That's basically the current state of the Democratic Party. They're just men, women play, and men play in women's sports. Endless spending, just open borders, Trump derangement syndrome. They don't stand for anything. By the way, little fun fact: Al Green, the guy with the cane who basically had to be escorted out, 1 year younger than Trump, walking with a cane.
Yeah.
Just a little perspective for you. But you know what? I got a little secret for you guys. So I feel like the Democrats are completely lost. And I have proof to show it. Oh. So don't ask me how, but in the mail, I got something from the DNC.
Oh, typical.
Okay. From the Democratic National Committee, basically saying this is the official 2025 Democratic survey, right? And the premise is, help us figure out what the hell to do.
Are you serious?
What should we do? The Democrats are the last line of defense between Trump's destructive agenda and the survival of our democracy. They're still doing that.
It's the opposite.
Every Democrat, each and every one of us, is a leader in the fight to stop Trump. He's taken office, and Project 2025 will be unleashed to its full extent, and we must stop him and the MAGA extremists, okay? So then, that's sort of the cover letter. Then they ask you a series of questions. What should we do? What do you find the most troubling?
Register as a Republican.
Right. So
walk away.
Yeah, take a look, Pat. So what do you find the most troubling? The mass deportations, the gutting of abortion access, the rolling back clean energy, the LGBTQ right. Same old hits, same old hits, same old hits. What this basically shows me, and I'll give it to you, Pat, is they're just like, what do we do from here?
Is that really
they're
what it's
completely
saying?
lost. Yeah, go take a look.
So
take a look.
they're asking.
They're just basically saying, where should we go from here? Help us figure out our agenda.
And send us cash.
And yes,
send us some money, please.
And please,
send us some cash.
Send me some money.
Yeah.
Well, here it is.
My money good.
All right, so
the DNC is seeking your immediate feedback. I'm reading verbatim with no enhancements.
Yeah, hey, Tom.
Your immediate
I already
feedback.
read it.
Is that the same thing that you read?
I already read that. Yeah, but go ahead.
I don't think that's what you read. But anyway, I'm just looking at seeking your immediate feedback as we determine the strategies that we needed to block agenda. We need your help.
No, Tom.
By the way,
literally what I
here,
read.
section 2, which is kind of weird, says, which of these priorities do you find most troubling? Trump's priorities do you find most troubling? Enacting mass deportations, slashing taxes for the ultra-wealthy, gutting abortion access, rolling back clean energy solutions and crucial environmental regulations, severely restricting voting access, attacking the fundamental rights of LGBTQ Americans, dismantling key federal agencies like the American Department of Education, defining the U.S. Supreme Court for decades by appointing even most ultra-conservative justices, which, Rob, if you have that Comey Barrett video about how she looks at Trump, we have to show that. I'm not troubled. I am not troubled by policies Trump is advocating. So they put one of the options that I am not
I'm good
troubled.
with it. Yeah.
Go ahead, Rob.
So I have a different perspective on this than you guys do. And I'm doing a podcast on this later today. My podcast, Can't Cancel Rob Smith. Go ahead. Definitely check that out. All right. So there's multiple strategies going on here. First of all, we say the Democrats can't stand up for this child, can't applaud anything that Trump is doing. Yeah, gross. We all know that, right? Because, I used to be a Democrat. I'll never vote for Democrats again as long as I'm breathing on this earth. It's just never going to happen. But you have to understand that there's a two-pronged strategy going on here right now with Democrats. First of all of these people that are pulling these stunts in the State of the Union, and by the way, I was actually able to go in that room. Speaker Johnson had a couple of us on a private tour. Have you ever been in that room? The power in that room is unbelievable, right? So they're obviously very disrespecting of that. But this is all about the social media clout. This is what they're doing. So they have the Jasmine Crockett's of the world. They have the Al Greens of the world. They have all of these people pulling these stunts for social media because this is what their base wants, right? So that's one part of the strategy. The second part of the strategy is that you've got, and we'll get into this later on in the show, you've got kind of these centrist Democrats moving in and getting a lot of attention from the media. You've got Cuomo running for mayor in New York again, right? You've got Stephen A. Smith kind of like doing his thing as a, political figure that's Democrat, right? So they're getting everybody ginned up on the internet by pulling these stunts because that is what Democrats like. You have to understand that their base likes this, all right? So this is the first year and a half of this, by the way, because the midterms are next fall. Now, we're going to start seeing them become a lot more moderate when it comes closer to 2028. So my argument to all you guys is that as gross as what they are doing is, they are doing the right thing for their base.
They're doing the right thing for their base?
For their base. I absolutely do. They're doing the right thing for their base because they've got a low IQ base that has nothing but no, seriously.
He's been watching Jasmine Crockett doing the Yeah, he's right.
So
he's
look,
right.
Democrats have a low IQ base that do not know facts, that are all over social media. And for a low IQ base that doesn't know facts, that is all over social media, Jasmine Crockett twerking or whatever works for them. Al Green disrupting and being removed works for them. These stupid signs that they're putting up in the State of the Union, this works for that base. You have to understand who these people are, right?
Yeah, Rob, who at this point would you say is the Democratic base?
Childless women and gays.
Childless women and gays. I don't disagree. Who else?
Okay, so Democrat base, childless women, gays, definitely blacks are still a part of the Democratic base. I would say black women. 92% of black women voted for Democrats and still will.
So black, childless, gay women.
Yes.
So the WNBA.
The WNBA.
They're voting for the
for sure they're voting.
Shout out to
So
Brittany
like,
Griner.
I'm telling you, this is the strategy. I think that it works for that base.
But it's just not big enough,
But the base isn't big enough. Rob, what are they intentionally doing to
agree with
expand it?
Nothing, which is the problem. I am not disagreeing that they're in trouble. I am not disagreeing that they don't have a leader. They have no message. Their ideological agenda is being roundly rejected by the American public. But I'm telling you, I know these people. These people attack me on social media every single night. I have this TikTok account. They're all over me, right? Yeah. So I look at some of these comments, and this is who these people are.
What do they say to you?
I don't know. Okay, let me tell you what I think. Yeah. I don't know if TikTok and Twitter is not all the Democratic Party. I don't think it is.
For sure.
I think TikTok and Twitter, the loudest people makes us seem like everybody else is in that way. I mean, we learned that during Free Palestine and Israel and Ukraine and Russia. And, we learned just because you're loud doesn't mean everybody feels the way you do. Most people are quiet. Most people don't. Majority of the people are very quiet. It's the silent majority, right? So let's go through the silent majority of Democrats, not the loud minority. Who are the silent majority of Democrats, okay? The silent majority of Democrats. I think the silent majority of Democrats are, John F. Kennedy, guys that voted during that time. They're probably Joe Manchin. They probably want decent economy. They want to have a job. They want to be able to send their kids to school. They want to be able to, probably not have this transgender stuff happening. I don't think the majority Democrats want that. Now, the majority Democrats, in my opinion, they want pro-choice. They want, certain government programs for people that don't have entitlements. That probably the majority want those types of issues is where they're at. They want the military to not have a big budget because they used to be not war. I think the majority of Democrats are so confused right now.
Yeah.
They're so confused right now because they're sitting there with their spouse. And by the way, I'm saying this because Hollywood guys watch this podcast and they'll message me after 2 years. They'll say, let me tell you, I was sitting there myself watching and asking myself, private conversations. These people don't want to go public. We'll have the private conversation. Why am I a Democrat? And they'll say, I used to say I'm a Democrat because I was not for war. Now Democrats are for the war. Trump's not for war. He wants to cause peace. He said, Zelenskyy finally sends a letter apologizing and, whether it's apologizing or not, to find a way to create a deal. And Putin is also open to the idea, right? And he sent a very strong truth social message yesterday to Hamas. And what he said, we'll get into that here in a minute as well. Trump doesn't want war. The Democrats want war. Under Biden, we were supposed to have World War III under Trump. Didn't happen. But under Biden, we almost had it.
Yep.
So the Democrats like, okay, I thought we're the not, party of war. 2, I thought we're the party of choice. Why are they forcing me to take the vaccine? 67%, 71% of Americans took it, and a lot of them are now saying, why did I take it? Right? I thought we were supposed to be the party of what is going on here? I thought we were the ones that were supposed to help people make money. This guy just said no taxes on tips. He says no taxes on Social Security payments. What? And then he says you get to write off interest on your car payment as long as the cars are made in America. Aren't these things good things for me? I think they are so confused. The majority of Democrats are so confused, but they can't help themselves to vote for Trump. They're willing to entertain voting for Republican. They have been just brainwashed so much to hate this man so much that they don't know how to go about it. By the way, without even thinking about it, do you know what tie he wore yesterday when he gave the State of the Union? What color was his tie? Did you pay attention to it? Don't say anything. Don't pull it up yet, Rob.
Was it
what color was his tie?
red?
Nope.
Was it not the standard
No,
red?
it was like
always
a light blue,
was red.
wasn't it?
Nope.
Someone's
You know what color was his tie? When's the last time you saw the president wearing a purple tie? Can you pull it up, Rob? When's the last time you saw him wear a purple tie?
I honestly have never seen that before.
Ken brought it up yesterday from BDC. He says, he wore a purple tie yesterday. I'm like, I didn't even see it. So I looked at it. I'm like, can you zoom in a little bit into the tie? Yeah. Does it allow you to up or no?
That's a video, but I can't. Hang on 1 second.
Yeah, when you see, why is he wearing a purple tie? He never wears a purple tie. What's he trying to
show some unity.
He's trying to say, guys, I want to work with you. Work with me. Stop thinking this way.
Yeah.
That's not a red typical tie. Yeah. Go to a typical Trump tie. Trump typically wears
long
the
red
red Stefano
that
Ricci. That's a Stefano Ricci tie. That's the tie he wears. He wears that tie, okay? He typically puts that tie on. Once in a while, he'll do a blue because he likes to wear his blue, but he's a red tie guy. You wear purple. He's trying to tell him, hey, guys, let's work together. Hey, let's do something together. Why don't we work together and be united in front of our enemies? Let's debate some of the issues. Why don't we do this? But no, they came out there trying to do a show. And I think the Democratic Party right now is in such a problematic place that people are like, imagine if you're a Republican, and all of a sudden the face of the Republican Party, a new person runs. Let's just kind of say Nikki Haley's now the president. Okay, and she gets up there and says, "No, the Republican Party is about allowing kids to transition." And then you're like, all right, Republican. Yes, Republicans, we should raise taxes on everybody. And then you're like, oh, dude, this is like weird. There was yes, we should do pro-choice. Yes, we should spend way less money on the military. Yes, you're just kind of like, all these values that you have, you're going to be sitting there at night confused saying, there's no way I can vote for, say, the other side of somebody else. There's no way I can vote for them. But I'm no longer this guy. What is this all about? That's what happens because what All along, I've been saying this about Trump since 2015-16. You know what Trump is? He's not a Republican. Trump's an independent. This is what people don't realize. This is not a Republican president. This is an independent president that had to run as a Republican.
Exactly.
That's who he is. He's tough. He's strong. He's going to push people around. He's going to push his weight around. But he's at most, Vinny, a center-right guy. At most. He's not a right-wing guy. He's a center-right guy, and I think the left is super confused.
I call it a New York City Republican. He was always a New York City Republican, right? Because your New York City Republican and your Mississippi Republican are two different people, right? And I think that you really make a good point, because where we're moving now as a society is kind of away from these red-blue binaries. And I think that the tie is a really good example of that, because look, I made a little video on my ex right before I came here, kind of like promoting the podcast. And the reason that I love Miami, the reason that I love Florida in general, is because you have a lot of people here that are super conservative, super based, but they're not necessarily going to like wave the flag like I'm a Republican. They love Trump, right? But the vast majority of people can't sit here and talk through these issues the way you can, or the way the Hollywood guys that reach out to you can, because they're entrepreneurs. They know business like that, right? The vast majority of people don't. And that's why I do slightly push back on the idea that the Democrats are so lost. They are lost. I think that they're finding their way. And it seems like I'm advocating for them. I am not. What I'm saying is that there's a strategy at hand here. And so if they have somebody like a Cuomo, like even a Manchin, like these figures, somebody that rises, and I think that there's somebody who we probably don't even know who they are right now. Mm-hmm. These slogans that the Democrats have when they tell these lies that Trump, wants to end abortion, or he wants to gut Medicaid, or all of this other stuff, right?
Hitler.
All of this stuff, right? Like, it doesn't work for you and I because we know better. But you wrap that messaging up in a masculine male, like white male package that says I'm a Democrat, because the next person that's going to rise up in the Democrats will absolutely be a traditionally masculine white male. All right. And if that person is able to articulate that messaging, they will make a comeback. It seems like they're in disarray right now, and I want them to be, God knows, because I would love to have 4 years of Trump and 8 years of Vance. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but there's parts of Vance that appeal to me even more than Trump does in a lot of different ways. But I'm telling you, there's a strategy here, and I don't want us to lose sight of that.
Yeah, no, and he's right, because look at Gavin Newsom is now doing a podcast because he knows he's finished.
I said masculine.
Okay, I got you. My bad. Well, he's a slithering snake. So my bad.
By the way, we'll play that clip here in a minute as well on what Newsom, the podcast, said about Charlie Kirk. It's very interesting. We'll play that here in a minute. But so while he's up there speaking, Trump says Zelenskyy sent a letter wanting to find a way to negotiate. Okay, Rob, do you have that clip of him saying that?
Yes.
So President Trump, during his Tuesday address to Congress, read a letter from Ukrainian President Zelenskyy saying earlier today, is this the clip?
Yes, sir.
Go for it, Rob.
An important letter from President Zelenskyy of Ukraine. The letter reads, Ukraine is ready to come to the negotiating table as soon as possible to bring lasting peace closer. Nobody wants peace more than the Ukrainians, he said. My team and I stand ready to work under President Trump's strong leadership to get a peace that lasts. We do really value how much America has done to help Ukraine maintain its sovereignty and independence. Regarding the agreement on minerals and security, Ukraine is ready to sign it at any time that is convenient for you. I appreciate that he sent this letter, just got it a little while ago.
Okay, so while that happens, he also, Zelenskyy, calls heated meeting with Trump regrettable, is what he calls it. Wall Street Journal story. Ukrainian President Zelenskyy called this intense White House meeting with the president regrettable on Tuesday, writing on social media, Ukraine is ready to come to the negotiation table. Rob, is this what he says?
Yes, this
I
is
would
his
like
tweet.
to reiterate Ukraine's commitment to peace. None of us wants endless wars. Ukraine is ready to come to the negotiating table as soon as possible to bring lasting peace closer. Nobody wants peace more than Ukrainians. My team and I stand ready to work under President Trump's strong leadership. Interesting. Strong, you put that word, that's going to turn Trump on. He likes that. Strong leadership to get a peace that lasts. We are ready to work fast to end the war, and the first stages could be the release of prisoners and truce in the sky, ban on missiles, long-range drones, bomb on energy and other civilian infrastructures, and truce in the sea immediately. If Russia will do the same, then we want to move very fast through the next stages, all the next stages, not the next stages, all next stages, and to work with the U.S. to agree a strong final deal. We do really value how much America has done to help Ukraine maintain its sovereignty and independence, and we remember the moment when things changed, when President Trump provided Ukraine with javelins. We are grateful for this. Our meeting in Washington at White House on Friday did not go the way it was supposed to be. It is regrettable that it happened this way. If it is time to make things right, we would like the future cooperation and communication to be constructive. Rob, can you zoom in a little more for the bottom? Regarding the agreement on minerals, what does he say about that? And security, Ukraine is ready to sign it at any time. Good. There you go. Boom. Good. We see the agreement as a step forward, greater security and solid security guarantees. I can't read the last part. Can you just, Rob, say what it says?
I truly hope it will work effectively.
Okay. Good. So you know what I like about this? Guess what? We watched a video last week. He's intense. Zelenskyy comes in tough, okay? Calls JD, not Mr. Vice President, right? There was a moment yesterday where President Trump says, Mr. Vice President, can you please, and they signed the executive order right there. The respect that you got to give him, Zelenskyy was being very disrespectful on the way he's speaking to him. A few days later, what happens? He's willing to not talk.
Weird.
What happened there? Everybody acts tough. Another guy did that as well. Adam, your thoughts when you saw Zelenskyy with the letter here?
So I'm trying to find like the closest metaphor to what this is, and this is what I have. So Zelenskyy is like a petulant child, and basically he's like ungrateful. That was JD Vance's entire message. It's like, you didn't even say thank you one time. So it's almost like Trump is the new stepdad that married the mom who's the EU. And Biden is the old dad. He's out. He's gone. Now Trump's in there. He's like, listen, I'm taking care of mom now. I'm taking care of everything. I'm taking care of the kid. I'm paying all the freaking bills here. And you're going to be ungrateful? And then his boy JD is like, yeah, I don't like that. And just basically like that. Meanwhile, Putin's the town bully in the playground. And he's like, no. I'm not going to give you any more toys. I'm not going to give you anything. You get back out there and you deal with the bully. And he's like, well, okay. And he gets back on the playground and he realizes, yeah, I'm sorry, stepdad. I'll write an apology letter. I'll do my homework. I'll make my bed. I'll do whatever I got to do because you were right. Because now I don't have Daddy Biden here to save me. I have this new mean stepdad that basically stepped in. And he's like, no. You've been taking advantage of mom and dad way too long. So new stepdaddy Trump stepping in, and you better do what you got to do, or you're going to go out there by yourself and deal with the bully. And he's like, niet. And that's where we're at.
It's just funny. Cause I watched that video probably 3 or 4 times too. Because Zelensky's not that great at English. So it was don't get me wrong. He effed up horribly. But if you watched it, Pat, he didn't really even, he's like, I don't understand. The body language too. He was literally like this on Trump. If I was Trump, I would have been like push his ass away. But this, again, that's all posturing. It's all showing off. And Adam is right. He is that freaking child that's gotten everything that he wanted. And now the stepdad who's militant, which the kid needs it. The other dad
was like, make your bed. No.
No.
You don't know what it's like to make a bed.
$350 million later, almost 1 million people dead. Enough is enough, man. Enough. Finished.
Tom.
I'll tell you what I see. I see all of this stuff happen, and there was 48 hours of devastating PR for Trump. All the European leaders, we stand with you, and they all stood on these stairs and made a big group of them, and included Trudeau. You see that photo op?
Yeah.
All the European leaders. But let's remember something. Those European leaders are talking about defending Ukraine with something, and that is called NATO armaments. That's what's there. This is U.S. arms. And when Trump came up and said, all right, then, I'm stopping all aid. Everything stops. And I'm also stopping the intelligence. Everything stops. That's what happened the night before this letter. Remember, Trump came out and said nothing. Okay, then you'll get nothing. And the other thing was, he was manipulated. Zelenskyy was willingly manipulated, and he listened to what these people were saying. Go in there and instigate and tweak and do these things. Okay, well, whatever was said, but he came in there and he screwed up because there are people that want war that don't care about his country, that care about the economic benefit they can derive from war continuing in his country. And those people, manipulated the situation. And so he came in and acted like a petulant little child. Trump said, okay, nothing. He went over and got all the European leaders to talk to each other. But you know what I read? What I read was when all of the war supply is exhausted that is currently warehoused, that Europe can't support the Ukraine war more than 6 or 7 weeks without turning to U.S. NATO supplies. So guess who's going to need help from us? All the NATO partners. And so they got to be careful with what they're all talking about here. And I think what happened is all of that went down, and then Zelenskyy came back and blinked.
Rob.
Does anybody remember what Zelenskyy said to Trump to really make him pop off? Do you remember that moment?
Yeah, you're going to feel it.
When you're going to feel it soon.
You have an ocean.
You don't tell me what to feel.
It was crazy.
You don't have the cards, Rob.
And there was not enough time spent in all of media and people like, everybody on this panel and all over social media talking about how outrageous that was. How outrageous it was that he came here, that welfare queen Zelenskyy, who has been basically running around the world begging for money as this war has gone on for 3 years. Outrageous to sit here next to the president of America and tell him, talk to the president of the United States, say you're going to feel it. That's when Trump popped off. That's when he had to sun Zelenskyy in front of the whole world. And what happened with that is like you guys said before, this is somebody that went into this meeting performing for the globalists that are pulling his strings, but also for the American media, because the American media had propped him up for so many years under the Biden administration. Remember, he was addressing the Oscars and he was going to the Grammys and he was begging for money in Hollywood and all this stuff. Like
Man of the Year.
Yeah, that is over. All right, that has ended. And so that's why he came back, by the way, willing to sign that deal when he didn't want to sign it before. And by the way, Trump did another presser right after that meeting where they said, oh, do you think that you'll invite Zelenskyy back to the White House? He's already begged me to come back right now. I don't think it's going to happen right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, at this point of the game, you're seeing patterns. What's the pattern? Toughness that lasts 24 hours. Toughness Colombia lasts 8 hours due to alcohol. Toughness by Panama, don't worry, we're going to get the canal and we're not going to let China have it. Toughness on Greenland, we're not going to give this up. He says, look, did you hear how he said about Greenland? He says, yeah, and Greenland, the people there are fine people, great people. It would be very good for both, international and national security for us to have Greenland to be part of us. And, one way or another, it's going to get done, just so you guys know that. So he started off nice and he's like, look, you're going to be here because we're going to have this. So, and he's going and everybody acts tough. And then you're like, oh, shit, the deal is getting done. Oh, shoot, the deal is getting done. Because this is a different administration he has than ever before. He has a team that has his back 100% and they believe him because they saw how hard he fought. And everybody at some point, everybody that's following him, you know what everybody said at some point? You know what happened? You know why he's the alpha of alphas? Here's why. Everybody at some point said, yeah, I could do that. Yeah, I would do that as well. Yeah, I could take that. I don't know if I can take that much shit. Holy, he gets up after you're bleeding. He puts a fight. I would have ran off the... And then in that moment, they're like, this is my leader. I'm not even... That's what happened to everybody. And that's why there's no more explaining himself. Everyone knows he's the alpha amongst alphas. Get in line. It's what we're doing right now. Let's get the job done. And that's exactly what's happening here. Rob, what clip is this here?
So I have a few. This was the message to the citizens of Greenland. I also have the clip of Trump talking about moving forward any type of prosecution for people who kill cops.
That's the one. Can you play that clip? Watch this one. This was one of my favorites. Go for it.
I've already signed an executive order requiring a mandatory death penalty for anyone who murders a police officer. And tonight I'm asking Congress to pass that policy into permanent law.
When I saw this, I'm like, good for you. What's happened with people wanting to be cops? They don't want to be cops. Nope. Why do you not want to be cop? I don't feel safe on the street. Yep. Guess what? Go kill a cop and see what happens. Wow. Go ahead and do it and see what happens. Death penalty. Can you imagine what that is?
Mandatory.
Yeah, mandatory death penalty to do something like that.
That's wild. I missed that.
That's freaking fantastic.
By the way, that was at top 3 on my list when I saw that. I said, great, because Democrats want cops. Andrew Cuomo goes on Stephen A. and says what? Andrew Cuomo, who's a former mayor of New York, what does he tell him? He says,
governor.
The former governor of New York. He's
Now
running for mayor now.
yes.
Yeah. He says, what does he say? He says he's against defund the police. Where's the story? Andrew Cuomo blasts defund the police during Stephen A. interview, despite once calling movement legitimate. He's realizing it didn't work.
Yeah.
Is this it, Rob?
Yes.
Go ahead and play the clip. Go for it.
There's been a shift in philosophy here in New York City and other cities. But you've had this move starting in about 2020, an anti-police movement, right? Cut the funding for the police. Police are bad. We have thousands fewer police today than we had. That has consequences. You cut the police, don't be surprised when crime goes up. You cut the police, don't be surprised when people are afraid to go into the subways because of the rate of crime. We have a mentally ill homeless problem. People who are mentally ill, dangerously mentally ill to themselves and to others.
Rob, can you pause it right there? So, by the way, this is a guy that do you have the clip of at one point him being supportive of BLM, Rob?
I can find it.
If you can find it. So,
it's out there.
Yeah. But you know what the point is, though? Here's the point. I'll come to you. The point is this. Even an Andrew Cuomo, who the mob came in, got rid of him on his own side.
Yes.
Because he wouldn't be locked in. And at one point, everybody thought this guy's going to run for president and be a president, right? Mm-hmm. And then you saw the old folks' homes and all that stuff that happened. Boom, and then they got rid of him, right? Now, Adams is going through a similar situation. At least what he is noticing is realizing what ideas didn't work, and he's willing to go back and shift and adjust. He is willing to say, we learned it didn't work. We got to get away from it, right? It's so hard for the rest of them to do it. Mm-hmm. It's so hard for the rest of them to do it. And if you don't protect cops, who the hell wants to be a cop? Think about, especially in NYPD. Go for it.
Let's talk about that whole BLM era, the whole defund the police era in 2020, right? I just, have relinquished myself of New York after having lived there for many years. Who were the people that were advocating for defund the police, that cops are bad, that all of this other stuff? It was basically white libs, all right? White libs that were either, local activists, but especially people like Cuomo and people like AOC, people like Cori Bush, the squad members, all these people. Yeah, AOC, all those people that had, the police protection for themselves, right? You know who wasn't advocating for this and who never advocated for any of this stuff? The people that lived in the dangerous communities in these cities that more likely than not were African-American, were Black Americans. These people were never advocating for that. So you would watch the local news reports and these people would be like, what are these people saying? We want more cops here. The cops make me feel safe. None of the people that were advocating for any of that had to live in any of these cities. They walked around with police protection. It was the height of hypocrisy. And I give Cuomo less credit than you, Pat, for coming out and saying this now that it is the safest possible time for him to ever say this. Because if he was a true leader,
you're right.
If he was a true leader, he would have gotten up and said that right then and there. If he was a true leader, he would have stood up to the far left
for sure.
right then and there.
I got the clip. I just found the clip. I sent it to Rob. If you can play this clip, Rob, watch this.
Different schools of thought. You want to say, oh, no, which do you think is the no-brainer? Is it a no-brainer to put more police? Or is it a no-brainer to say defund the police? They're both legitimate schools of thought.
They're not. They're not. And we talked about it here on the podcast. That's not, right? But here's the part. What is he doing there? Do you really think he doesn't know having more police on the streets is safe? Do you not think he knows that? His father was a 3-term governor.
He knows.
Do you think he knows it, or do you think he's playing politics at the time?
Playing politics.
He's playing politics.
They all are.
Guess what he learned? It doesn't work. By the way, if the majority of Democrats, not the minority, the silent majority, if those guys don't make adjustments, by the way, how much, if he was sitting right here, what would I tell him? I called you out because you were playing politics. I would tell him that if he's on the podcast. But at least he realizes he has to go there. If he doesn't go there, it's done. If Democrats don't come out and go there, guess what? No problem. You know what happened after Lincoln had a 2-term president? You know who was the president next? Ulysses S. Grant, one of the worst presidents. But you know what happened to Ulysses S. Grant? He was a 2-term president. You know what's going to happen if Trump crushes it the next 4 years? No matter what, it's a 2-term president afterwards. Pretty much high likelihood.
For sure.
Because the good policies are going to stay like that. What's a 2-term president? So do the math. 2028 at 8 years, 2036, till 2036, it's going to be a Trump type of a president. That's what the Democrats are messing with. So if you're upset now, Dems, just so you know, stay upset and don't do anything about it because you're going to have to deal with this till 2036 if you don't pivot and suck it up and realize your ego is in the way. And every Democrat that's involved in politics should read the book, Ego is the Enemy, because that's in the way right now of what they're doing. Truly, that's what's going on with them. Now, Rob, let's do this. Can you go back to trying to see what other clips we had? What were your favorite moments? For me, it was that death penalty, no funding for LGBTQ. And you know what he said, which was fantastic? He says, if you're teaching these things in school, federal funding stops.
Yep.
Federal funding stops. I don't know if you have that clip or not.
I'll find that.
And then he says something so powerful that every parent relates to. You know what it was? Kids are perfect just the way that God created them.
Yes, he did. I remember.
What
that was a great one.
beautiful thing to say. You know who relates to that? What percentage of parents you think relate to that? What percentage of parents sit there and say...
vast majority.
100%. The number is a close to 100%, 95%. The 5% are the ones that bailed on their kids, who don't care about it. But vast majority are saying, that's exactly right. That's not a Democratic or Republican or an independent position. That's an evergreen position. But there was one moment, which was kind of weird, Rob. Can you pull up the clip that Amy Coney Barrett, that David Harris Jr. posted? I want to know, Rob, what do you think about this? Tom, I want to get your thoughts as well. First, go back, Rob, and let's read what he put in the captions, if you don't mind. Do you have it on what he says? It's
who was the commentator?
Are supporting now, it's certainly not America. David Harris also said the fact that no wonder she always votes against him. Okay? Look at the way Amy Coney Barrett looks at the president on Tuesday night. Go for it.
Ugh.
Whoa.
She hates
Go back to it again, Rob. Go back to it again. Look at this. If you read body language, look at that. He's complimentary, Kavanaugh, but look at her. Go to it one more time, Rob, please. And pause right there. Look at that smirk.
That's disgust.
That's disgust.
That's hate.
Why do you think, Tom?
Who put her on the bench?
Didn't he appoint her? Yeah.
He what?
Who put her on the bench?
He did.
I know, but why? What happened? Do you guys know anything about what happened there?
Are there actual stories, or are we just speculating?
I have some thoughts.
Go for it.
So remember, what happened to this country during the Kavanaugh confirmation here is completely ridiculous, right? They're dragging them under the mud. But remember that there were all these leftist protesters that were being activated that were at Kavanaugh's home. This is what I believe. Because Amy Coney Barrett consistently votes against, the conservatives, Trump's agenda, et cetera. I think that she's being threatened privately. I think that a lot of very bad people know where she lives, and I think that she lives under the constant fear of that. That's what I truly believe, because there's nothing in me that thinks that she is in any way not being pressured by some outside forces.
You think she's being strong-armed?
I do. I absolutely believe this. 100%. Who knows? I mean, look, we talk all the time. People like us talk all the time about globalists, about the agenda, about et cetera. I go to D.C. regularly, right? I've been there more in the past 6 weeks than I've been, I would say, like in the past 5 years. And if you think that that's not a swamp, if you think that there's so many people in D.C. at every level that are not being influenced and persuaded and blackmailed and pressured by people, it's 100%. I mean, you feel it the second you get off the airplane at Reagan, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that she's actually being very much influenced, very much strong-armed by some people behind the scenes, because even constitutionally and legally, her rulings make no sense.
Well, let me read you what I have here. Since 2020, October, when she was sworn in, here's the instances where she is diverged from Trump's preferences. Trump's election challenge, 2020-2021, which, in that case, she didn't challenge the Pennsylvania mail-in ballots and election laws. Okay, so that's one. 2, Trump's administration immigration policies. She joined her colleagues in upholding certain legal challenges against Trump's era immigration policies as those related to asylum seekers and public change rule, okay? And the third one is case involving Trump's financial records. She participated in decisions relating to Trump's tax returns where the court upheld subpoenas for his documents, which was not in his favor. So I don't know. And there's other 4 times that she was for him. Foreign aid funding dispute, March 2025. That's now. New York sentencing appeal, January 2025. That's now. Colorado ballot eligibility case, if you guys remember, March 2024. She was not for that. Immunity ruling, June 2024. I don't know. But that look to me was a strange look. And maybe we're reading into it. Maybe there's nothing there, but it seemed kind of weird on how she looked at the president.
I have a different perspective on this because anyone who thinks that just there's 6 conservatives and there's 3 liberals on the Supreme Court. And the whole narrative is that there's a ideological monolith, that the conservatives are always going to vote with the conservatives and the liberals are always going to vote with the liberals, and that's the way it is. And if that is the case, that it's always going to be 6-3, and that's what it is. And the Democrats were going to pack the court. That was the whole conversation that was happening in 2020. But I got a little bit of different perspective because who are the 3 liberals? Who are they?
Ketanji Jackson.
Yeah, that's one.
Sotomayor.
And Elena Kagan.
Yeah.
And those are 3 women. Who are the conservatives? Clarence Thomas, Chief Justice Roberts, right? Samuel Alito, Neil Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and now Amy Comey Barrett. So she's the one female conservative. So who do you think she has more in common with? The ideological, political conservatives or the ladies? So she's the most swayable because, when you go to the bathroom, you're with the ladies. I assume that the men aren't allowed to go to the women's bathroom. When you have lunch, maybe this is the craziest thing, which I found out recently, and I've known this, but women, they sync their periods. I don't even know if these ladies still get their periods. Probably not. But that whole thing, Rob's like,
here we go.
But the point is this. She is way more willing to go over to the left side because her girls are hanging out there. That's my perspective. Why else would she look at Trump with such disdain?
Our girls
Why
are
else?
hanging out there?
That's where her girls are hanging.
I don't know.
So you don't know anything.
So you're
because
saying
you've given nothing.
these guys have Supreme Court decisions that they make in the bathroom stall while they're sitting there talking to each other. That's what you're saying. Hey, Amy,
100%.
what do you think about the ruling? That's what you're saying. That's the visual?
That's what I'm trying to say.
All right, Tom.
Go ahead.
Think
Visualize
about the roll
that.
and pass me a tampon.
Do you agree
Hey,
with
girl.
this guy here?
No, I don't.
Do you think there's anything there, though? Or do you think this is one of your famous nothing burgers? What do you think?
No. There is something there. There was something on her mind.
Yeah.
You could see the very rigid body language and you could see the facial expression. There was something there. And that something is very real. But it's interesting in this picture. Do you know who she is closest ideologically to?
Who?
The man directly in front of her and the man directly on her left.
Roberts and Clarence Thomas?
No,
the guy
she's
on top
over there.
left.
Clarence Thomas and Gorsuch.
Oh,
Right.
Gorsuch.
That's where, if you look at her history of her appellate writings and the things that she's done, that's where she's closest ideologically. So I don't know about this, what Adam just said, that she's going to align with the women. It's very interesting that Ketanji Jackson hasn't really aligned with anybody. And as a matter of fact, her and Elena Kagan are not exactly close. You can read about all this stuff. All this stuff is available out there. But when it comes down to you want to look at what they write and what they support, right? And what they write in a dissenting view. So I think there is something very real with Trump, but I look at her voting record. I just go back and look at the voting record. And I look at it before she was on the court, and I look at it since she was on the court. And until I see her suddenly broke, as we say in the military, broken arrow, and she flies off, and I see 3 rulings in a row that are like, whoa, that's really weird. Because remember what happened with David Souter? They told Bush Sr., it's a slam dunk. He's going to look like this, but he's going to be with you. And guess what? Bush Sr. put a liberal on the court by accident, listening to it. You can go back and look at what happened with Neil Souter. All of a sudden, they start looking at his opinions and going, Bush Sr., you put this guy on the court? And he was completely broken arrow off left.
Wow. So, Adam, are you trying to show something
Tom,
here?
you are half right because she does align very closely to Neil Gorsuch, but she ain't nowhere near silent Judge Clarence Thomas. He is literally the most conservative guy on the bench next to Samuel Alito, where she is very center right. So if she did align with Clarence Thomas, she'd be all the way to the right.
Look
so
how
look
far
at this.
left Sotomayor is.
Exactly.
Look,
Kagan,
ignore the
Jackson,
Alito line.
Thomas.
I'm not going to ignore the Alito line because it's right there.
Oh, please stop playing. If you take a look there, Alito's not.
That
on
was
the
like
court.
Tom's version of like a sassy black girl. Stop playing with me, boy.
No, I think you're impersonating that yourself. But you take a look at where Gorsuch is, and then you look at what's remaining over there on the right, and you look at where everything else is.
Yeah, Tom, I don't know what you're trying to do. You got caught with your pants down, buddy. She's not as conservative as Clarence Thomas.
His pants are
He's
off,
all the way to the right. Take your pants off. She's just somewhere center right. That's all it is.
All right. So one point about the Supreme Court that I want to make, you said that they were having the conversation in 2020 about packing the court, et cetera, et cetera. Just because that conversation is over does not mean that they are not still trying to actively do that. When Democrats start having conversations about things, they dump millions of dollars into multiple nonprofits and have people that are working on this and probably getting paid by this at this very moment. So you better believe that in any Democrat presidency in the future, it will happen. And Democrats will run on this, right?
Well,
About packing the court.
Let me tell you guys one thing that you kind of got to look at what happens. I just searched right now who are the oldest members of the Supreme Court Justice. Clarence Thomas, 1948. Makes him how old?
77.
Okay. So, depending on how things look, if I'm Trump, I'm probably speaking to him to replacing him in 2028. That's very important.
Absolutely.
And replacing him with you got some options. I don't know who you bring, Ted Cruz or whoever you want to bring, some of the guys that he brings in that he can suggest. But I think that part, he's got to be strategic on where he's at. And hopefully they'd be willing to work with him. Because Sotomayor's 70, she can still go 8 more years. There's definitely
Health-wise, she's far older than 70, and the Dems had actually approached her about resigning.
You know what's crazy about DC? And I was having this conversation with one of the producers early before I came on set. When you spend a lot of time there, you realize how old people are. And I mean, these people are old, man. They look old, they move old, and when you think about why we have gotten to the place where we have gotten in this country to where we needed Trump to really come in like a sledgehammer, it's because so many people are so old and out of such. It really is this bubble of just antiquated ideas, antiquated people, and I just
Rob, come on, dude. You're saying that
Chuck
Joe
Grassley?
Biden is old?
No,
You're
Chuck
saying that
Grassley?
92-year-old Chuck Grassley?
Yeah.
You're saying that Mitch
McConnell, who's always having a fall.
You're saying that Nancy
these people are
Pelosi
so old.
is old? Come on,
So
man.
it's a point if we're going to
They're
talk
in their
about
prime, baby.
if we're going to talk about the Supreme Court, it is a good point that Trump should replace one or two of these people.
And I would get some guys that their age starts with the number 4.
Yep.
That's what I'd be looking for. I'd be looking for some guys early 5.
That's a radical idea,
4.
Pat.
No, I'll take it. I'd like to see.
No,
some,
I mean it's cool, but it's just radical to think of somebody that young on the Supreme Court.
Oh no, I'm good with mid-40s.
Who's the
Let's get
youngest
somebody-
Supreme Court?
53,
justices?
52?
No, in general, ever put on the
ever?
on the,
It has to be
Oh, in the
50s.
last 50 years, let's say.
The youngest has
Rob,
to
can
be.
you find that?
I would say 51 years old.
You just throwing a number out there? What do you
Well,
think?
because I think the oldest
I
here
bet
is
it's
50s.
never been. I bet it's never been younger. than
32 years
55.
old. 32 years old.
When?
Just if Joseph Story in 1811 was 32
Well,
years
people
old.
live to 40 at that point. I'm
I'm
saying the last 50 years.
52 years old. Amy Coney Barrett.
Amy, okay.
Okay. All right, so let's go to the next story here. Rob, so right after, I think yesterday, or right after, it could have been yesterday, President Trump put out a very strong tweet or on Truth Social about Hamas, Rob, that I'd like to read here if you can pull up. There is no holding back. And Adam, I think you sent this in a group text. So, Shalom Hamas means hello and goodbye. You can choose. Release all of the hostages now, not later, and immediately return all of the dead bodies of the people you murdered, or it is over for you. Only sick and twisted people keep bodies, and you are sick and twisted. I am sending Israel everything it needs to finish the job. Not a single Hamas member will be safe if you don't do as I say. I have just met with your former hostages whose lives you've destroyed. This is your last warning. For the leadership, now is the time to leave Gaza while you still have a chance. Also to the people of Gaza, a beautiful future awaits, but not if you hold hostages. If you do, you are dead. Okay, I think that's very straightforward. Make a smart decision. Release the hostages now, or there will be hell to pay later. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. Adam.
Yeah. After this message, does anybody need any more clarity on which side Trump stands on this issue? Is Trump playing at all with this? Interesting about shalom means hello and goodbye. It actually means a third meaning. Shalom means hello, goodbye, and peace. So Trump, whether it's Ukraine and Russia, whether it's Israel and Palestine, there you go. Trump is a word meaning peace, and it also means hello and goodbye. Trump is very clear on what the hell he wants. He's done with this. He's going to take over Gaza. He doesn't even care. Meanwhile, you have the Egyptian president, Al-Sisi, is basically saying, all right, cool, yeah, I'm in. Well, whatever you got to do. So we're going to see what happened with Jordan. Jordan, basically, the king of Jordan, came in about 2-3 weeks ago, and he basically said, we'll take over sick babies. We'll see if they're going to actually do that or not. But here's the most interesting thing. After the Holocaust, do you know that how many countries were affected, how many Jews were affected? There was like 30, 40 countries that were affected by World War II. Israel absorbed all the immigrants from all over the world. They said, if you're Jewish and if you want to be part of the land of Israel, come on down. If the Middle East and the Arab countries, the Muslim countries truly cared about the Palestinians, why would they not absorb them? Why would Egypt not let them in? Have you ever seen the border of Egypt? They're not letting anybody in. They're not letting a cockroach from Gaza in. Jordan is basically, Transjordan was basically what Palestine would have been. I think 70% of Jordan is Palestinians. Why don't they take them in? Why doesn't Saudi take them in? Why doesn't Syria take them in? Why doesn't Lebanon take this in? Do you know that in Syria, in Lebanon, Palestinians are literally treated as second-class citizens? Did you know that? Whereas in Israel, you have Supreme Court members that are Palestinian. You have police that are Palestinian. You have all members of society that are Palestinian. It's just very interesting to me, the dichotomy of actually what happens in Israel versus what happens all along the Middle East. They talk a big game, but at the end of the day, they just hate, quote unquote, Israel having their own peace and prosperity. They don't care about the Palestinians. They're using it as a cudgel to basically try to take down Israel. But if Trump's there, none of that's happening.
Tom, thoughts?
I think Trump, as he has spoken on tariffs, and I'm not comparing the human life and the situation that started on October 7th with tariffs. I'm looking at the way Trump speaks and what he puts on the table, and he is not screwing around. He gave them, they have blown through a deadline where they only released about half of what they were supposed to release, and they were given a deadline. And they didn't do everything that they were supposed to do on that deadline. And now Trump is speaking up and saying, look, I have just spoken. The key thing for me of the post was I have just spoken to some released hostages, and I did not like what I heard. And I'm telling you, you're keeping dead bodies. You're doing these things. I have had enough. And the only thing he didn't put in there is, can I remind you that 2 weeks ago I gave you a deadline and you only released about half of what you should?
How far do you think he's willing to go?
Well, he's not going to drop nukes on Gaza.
Not nukes, but how far do you think he'll go, Vinny?
Well, I think with him putting dead in capital letters, he's willing to send people to go get them, like actual freaking special forces to go get them. Because at this point, it's like, who knows what? Remember those photos that we have, Tom, of the some of the prisoners that were released later on, and it was like, whoa, they look really, really rough. But you made a great point. Yeah, you made a great point. I saw him in the White House yesterday, and he was genuinely asking them, like, how was it? Are you okay? Is everything okay? And I think the stories that he heard when the cameras were off really, really pissed him off. Yeah, look at the.
And I think that's what to look at.
Yeah,
what is being said? What is being said when the cameras are off? What is being said?
Is that the same person?
Beyond the post?
Same person.
That is the same person.
But
but they're being treated great.
No, nobody's saying. No, nobody's saying that.
I'm not saying that.
All I got to say is I look at one thing.
People are saying that.
Yeah, well, my thing is
the
this.
Hamas supporters are saying they love being there in Gaza.
Yeah,
they're being treated so great.
Well,
it's what's being said behind closed doors, and then I'll shut up. What did Mexico just do? They talked tough, and all of a sudden they were walking a bunch of guys to the border. Yeah. The guys that we wanted.
Yep.
The bad guys we wanted.
Yep.
Suddenly they're all shown up.
Yep.
Suddenly they're rounded up, and they don't look happy.
Yeah.
I think what you see behind closed doors, whatever Mexico was saying, but whatever.
Will it get, and what is he willing to do? How far will he go with this? If they don't respond, because already It's been 2 weeks and they haven't done anything. So
to me,
guess
it's
what?
pretty simple.
I think you're
Call
going to
your
see some
bluff. So-
strategic strikes and some guys are going to disappear in the middle of the night.
And how soon will that happen?
I think we're hours, not days.
Okay.
I was gonna say
we'll
days.
see.
But my thing is this: I'm not trying to like be funny on the situation. The message, the platform that he's doing this, Truth Social. You think Hamas is on Truth Social?
They better be.
No, but what I'm saying is, I don't have. Is anybody here on Truth Social? I don't. You can't expect
but you
Hamas.
don't-
Yeah, but they know that when Trump says something on Truth Social, it goes
Yeah,
around the
exactly.
world, right? Everybody knows that. Look, I think that
Around the world in 17 minutes.
this is the peacetime president. Trump wants peace. He made it very clear in that Truth Social post what Hamas needs to do. What I will say is that the extent of America's involvement in this, if it goes to a certain point, it's likely not to be very popular with Trump's hardcore base. So I think that there's a lot of very delicate ways that this needs to be played.
I think Trump
okay,
controls
but-
his hardcore base.
but
I think they're going to go along with that.
Go with that. Go with that. Go and tell me how to do this delicately.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here and not in D.C.
How do you do it delicately? How do you do this? Because to me, I think Qasem Soleimani was not delicate. It was, boom, here's what we're doing, right?
Dead.
Dead, right? Here's what we're doing. Okay, great. If they go and they attack to try to find some of these guys and they're in the bunkers and it kills innocent people, the left is salivating for that.
1,000%.
Salivating for that. So is that why he is moving this slowly? And do you think Hamas and those guys know about the fact that he doesn't want innocent people to die because those clips will be going viral everywhere and you're going to see Free Palestine, protesting happening in the streets, and Twitter's going to lose their mind going out there and saying President Trump is this and he's owned by Jews and he's owned by this? Do you think that's the reason why he's moving slow with it? Do you think that's the hesitation?
I don't think that's hesitation because honestly, that pro-Palestine stuff and all of those protests are not particularly popular among the mainstream left right now anyway. You saw when a lot of those protests happened. Remember, they were protesting in the middle of Broadway shows and they were screaming at people's faces and
He
dinners
said it 2
and
weeks
all
ago,
of that.
Rob. Nothing has happened. He said the same threat 2 weeks ago. What's the difference between the threat now and 2 weeks ago?
I do not know.
Vinny, what is the difference between the threat now and 2 weeks ago? You give a threat. You haven't done anything.
you haven't
We're
done
still
anything,
there. And I'm
not-
not giving you but half of the hostages.
Yeah, and now, like I said, Pat, the capitalization of words and saying like enough is enough. I'm thinking now.
We're going to see if that means anything.
And so here's my question. Let's go on a
Dealing with Hamas.
Yeah, let's do a tactical, like militarily type of mindset right now. We know where they are. Can we all agree, Tom? We know our intelligence, Mossad, everything together. We know exactly where these terrorists and the hostages are, right? No. How do we get? Do we let them stay hostages? Because we don't. America doesn't negotiate with terrorists. Do we go in and just say, hey, enough is enough? And this is the worst part that people don't want to talk about. People are going to die if you do an invasion and you go and get them. They're going. Some hostages, if not all of them, are going to die. But we're going to kill the people that are
Right.
holding.
Can you
what's
do
the
me a favor?
question?
Can you go to the Truth Social? Can you go to his Truth Social?
So who is the we that we're talking about, right? Are we talking about we as in America, or are we talking about we as in funding Israel to go take care of
Exactly.
this?
So check this
So
out.
that's the
Go
question.
to the tweet. Go to the Truth Social, the one you just showed. That's the one right there, Rob. Yeah, Shalom Hamas. Okay, zoom in. Keyword in this sentence is what? In this Truth Social, I am sending Israel
Yes.
everything
it
it needs to finish the job. I'm sending Israel everything it needs. What does Israel need? Do they need Delta Force? Do they need special? Do they need Navy? Is that part of everything?
No, they don't need anything from America.
Is it
other
weapons?
Than the weapons.
No,
what do you need?
I feel like when he says he's sending Israel everything it needs, I believe that that's funding and stuff like I don't think that he's sending our American soldiers to go fight. Like that's not happening,
not our
right?
soldiers.
So when I read that, my first thought is when he's saying I'm sending Israel everything it needs, it means American funding to go wage the war.
Well, let's see. Let's see what
there
happens.
is a technicality here, and I'll be 30 seconds. When he made that first threat, and he said, "Listen, I want these hostages. They gave the hostages back.
A lot of them.
Well, no, they gave 2 dead babies back that the Bebus kids, these little redhead kids,
the redhead babies,
redhead kids, and they They wanted their bodies. Who kills babies and keeps it while in hostage? And the mother of these two kids, they wanted their body back. And turns out they just swapped bodies and put some other persons in there. And Israel has what's called DNA testing. And they're like, yeah, this isn't even her, dude. What are you guys doing over here? So the point is, Trump made this threat. You don't think that Trump and Netanyahu and the IDF are having conversations? You don't think the Mossad and the military is having conversations and Pete Hegseth and the military structure within IDF are having conversations? And they're like, yeah, dude, the whole hostage thing. It's like if I came and I said, hey, Pat, I have this gift for you, and it's supposed to be a cigar cutter, and it just turns out it's a box of hay. Are you going to be like, dude, no, the
you're
deal's
always
off.
like that. You never give the
Never
It's just
give
a box.
gifts.
But I would
Just a
use it.
box. There
Yeah.
it is. So the point is, this time around, he's like, all right, you guys want to see what's going on? You're going to feel the hate right now.
Look at this. Rob just ran a poll, and the poll is: will Donald Trump's message to Hamas lead to the release of all the hostages? 4,400 people voted 9 minutes ago. Right? What's the number, Rob? Let's zoom in so we can see it. 63% say yes, 37% say no. It's not 80+%.
Nope.
There's a group of people that are saying they don't think they're going to be released. So I don't know.
That's actually fine. I was actually higher than I would suspect.
No, what I'm saying is I think something's about to happen. And you can't keep saying it. You say it once, you say 2 weeks later, you have a reputation of your threats are being heard by others. You don't. Reagan, the prisoners were released the moment he's given inauguration. And that was Iran and Khomeini. And it hasn't happened right now. So they're trying to play games, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I think he's at a point right now that something may happen in the next, like Tom said, hours. I don't know. Because if it goes any longer, you can't threaten somebody that's solid and not do anything. That's what criticism was towards Putin. Putin would threaten. You're like, dude, you're not going to do no nuclear. We're going to use nuclear. Look, you're not going to do it. You're not going to do it. Stop using the threat. So, and Trump's not a guy to me that I think he's going to keep allowing his threats to go unnoticed.
No.
So I think something's going to happen. We'll see. All right, let's go to the next story here. Let's go to the next story here. Stephen A. Smith, he's on The View. They try to ask him a question. And Rob, I'm coming to you with this one here. So Stephen A. Smith is on The View. They're asking him a question. And he answers it in a way where everybody was like, whoa, we were not expecting that. Go ahead, Rob.
In office for 6 weeks. Seems like 6 years, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. And he's been going around with his cronies touting his so-called landslide and blowout win. But he won the popular vote by 1.5%, one of the smallest ever, and he won the general election by less than 50%. So what kind of mandate is this really?
Well, it is a mandate, and I'm going to explain why. And I don't mind the question, but let me be very clear. I'm no supporter of Trump. I'm a supporter of truth and the facts. And here's the facts. The man won every swing state. He increased in terms of his voter turnout in his favor from the standpoint of blacks, Latinos, and young voters. He increased his numbers in that regard from 2020. 89% of the counties shifted to the right. That's a mandate. We can sit up there and play around all we want to. In 2020, Trump didn't win the popular vote. He didn't win the electoral college vote. A matter of fact, the Republicans hadn't won the popular vote, if I remember correctly, since 2004. Yeah. But they did this year. So 20 years after they last won the popular vote, they won the popular vote. They won the electoral college vote. The man won every swing state. And on top of it all, 89% of the counties shifted against. I don't understand how people can look at that and say, there's no mandate. There's a mandate.
Well, it's a different definition of a mandate, I guess.
But the problem is that if you're the Democratic Party and you lost 49.8% to 48.3%, and you're looking at that 1.5% dip, that's an excuse for you to say, what we did really wasn't that bad. We should continue to do that.
So
no, don't continue to do that. Find a new strategy.
Rob.
Oof. Do you know how uncomfortable all those women in the panel were by literally sitting next to a black man that's not just going to nod on like a bobblehead and go along with all their Democrat talking points? So look, the Democrats have a black male problem, right? Everybody knows that. And Stephen A. Smith has been very savvy in kind of like coming from the sports commentator world. He's extremely successful and then kind of putting himself into the space where I'm going to say I am not for Trump, but I am going to sit here and I'm going to tell you the truth about everything that is going on right now. It's very savvy because, and this is where I'll throw the black card down on the table. If you are a black man Democrats have absolutely nothing to offer you. The black men that Democrats push forward are either gay, drag queens, the Cory Bookers of the world, the people that are just going to sit there and basically be dominated by like loud, masculine black women who are the face of black people in the Democrat Party. So there is a real opportunity there. And Stephen A. Smith, I think, is positioning himself perfectly. And he's going to run with this, right? And so I think that this going viral speaks to how rare it is that we actually see a black man literally stand up and say, well, no, I'm not going to sit here with these Democrat talking points. I am going to tell you exactly what it is and be unapologetic about it. If the Democrats, again, it seems like I'm advocating for Democrats. I am not. I'm telling you, I
Just
despise
say you're a Democrat,
these people.
Rob.
I'm not a Democrat.
Go for
I am
it.
not a Democrat. Literally, not a Democrat. Never will be. But if they lean into the Stephen A. Smiths of the world and they lean into this messaging, those black men that they lost to Trump, just your run-of-the-mill, you're working at the barbershop, you're working class, whatever, that is the black man that they lost to Donald Trump, right? And I am not going to say that those black men will never go back to Democrats because it is still deeply unpopular to be a Republican in the black community. So Stephen A. Smith doing this right now and the fact that this is going viral tells me that he knows what time it is. And Democrats are going to start figuring this out maybe later rather than sooner.
Okay, Adam.
Well, does anybody have more credibility on this topic than Stephen A. Smith? Why? Because he didn't vote for Trump. The first thing he said, he goes, I'm no fan of Trump, but let me tell you in truth. And fake Bette Midler over there, whatever her name is just doesn't know. That doesn't mean it. It's a man that, shut your mouth. Like, no matter what he says, she's just going to be like, wow, it's not a bad. They've got no response. They've got nothing. But here's what I will say. The View, and I know Vinny watches The View all the time. It's your favorite show, right? It is so much better when there's a guy on the podcast. Because women will just they won't say what they really want to say. They'll say the things that's like, well, I don't know, I disagree. Stephen A. Smith's like, listen, fake Bette Midler. And they will serve him the truth. By the way, you see on CNN, who's the guy that disrupts everything?
Scott Jennings.
Scott
They
Jennings.
don't last. They don't survive without him.
All right. He's on a panel full of women or female men. And then you go on, the Fox has the show, the Five. A man will tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. So Stephen A. Smith showed up. He didn't tell them what they want to hear. He told her what they needed to hear. And he dropped the mic, and she had no response.
Hold on. Can I get a sauce appreciation moment right here? Because this is the most versatile man in podcasting. You go from old Jewish woman to sassy black girl to finance bro
I'll do it all.
to New York black Brooklyn dude in the space of 38 seconds.
Don't do that to him, Rob. We're going to be here all day.
This guy doesn't do well with
Guys, you can subscribe to my only. No,
yes. Well, Adam makes a great point, and I love
clip
what
that part. Thanks, Vinny.
I love what Stephen A. said at the beginning. He's not a fan, but you know what he's a fan of?
The truth.
Truth and facts. And the facts are, and these people cannot accept the fact. My only thing is, and you nailed it, Rob, I think he's positioning himself. So is Andrew Cuomo, he's going for mayor. But when it comes to Andrew Cuomo, I don't want people to forget, he was disastrous with COVID, with lockdowns, with all that stuff. So, and again, we always say this, you're going to vote for what you get, and I'm not going to feel sorry for you if people vote for these type of people. But it's interesting with Stephen A. because he, in another interview this week, he said, I'm not into politics. I'm not saying I'm going to run. We know what he's doing. Right. Okay, he's positioning himself. Maybe Andrew Cuomo president, maybe him vice president. I don't know. My question is, though, what are you going to run on? Meaning, are you, once these Democrats now that are just doing opposition, Rob, to make a fellow Democrats to go, yeah, that's what we want. What are you going to run on? And are you going to reverse all of Trump's orders, just like Biden did, with the border, with drilling, with the war? That's the one fear I have. And I love Stephen A. Smith. I think he's one of my favorite people right now that are talking about these facts and the truth. Once you're in, the Schumers, the Pelosi's, the Obamas, who are still, even though, by the way, they lost the black vote because of that guy, because of Obama scolding them, telling them, Kamala's black, you have to, no, that message is dead. I just hope, and I hope to God, because to me, that's the future of the Democratic Party, are people like Stephen A. Smith. Once you're in, you don't flip because of them, because of those losers.
Well, I don't think anything more needs to be said about Stephen A. I mean, he said, I'm on the side of truth, and this is how I feel. And then he correctly pointed out the authentic results of the election as looked through the lens of history. How is it different now versus what it was? And let me tell you what you saw. What you saw is coping and denial having a head-on collision in the middle of a synapse in her brain. She's just like, well, maybe it's a different definition of mandate. And it's just like they can't exactly. Because when you start with feelings lead you to denial. Feelings lead you to coping. I can't cope with what I'm feeling, and we lost, and I can't look at the facts and say, why did we lose? We can't have lost. This isn't happening. I'm not here. This isn't happening. She's having an out-of-body experience. And it's Trump derangement syndrome. So it's like a triangle. On one side, you have Trump derangement syndrome. On one side, you have coping disorder. And the other side, you have raw denial. And that's where she was. And that's what you're seeing there. And you're seeing Stephen A. very calmly just turn to her and say, well, if all these things happened in this way, what do you call it? And she can't handle it. And this is why the Dems usually start positions with feelings and victimhood, and the Republicans usually start with facts. And when you get down to a core conservative like me, I don't think liberals are evil. I just think they're wrong. But they think I'm evil, stupid. And they want me to die.
So, when you're talking about this, to go to the next topic, were you going to say something on this?
Yeah, last topic. Yeah. The last thing I'll say on this, and I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but I'm going to say it, what blacks lack is fathers and dads. And there is a position right now for Stephen A. Smith to be basically mean black dad to get black America back together. It is wide open, and he's stepping into it, and I think he's going to be big in the coming decade.
So what you're saying is Stephen A. should go watch the movie Lean on Me by Morgan Freeman.
1,000. That's
you think Stephen A. Smith hasn't seen Lean on Me 10 times? Every black man in America has seen Lean on Me.
Come on. I'm not even black, but listen, it's a great movie. All right, so
Joe Carter.
Rob, can you do me a favor? Pull up the clip on Andrew Tate and brother Tristan Tate under criminal investigation in Florida, Attorney General, and maybe if you got whatever the clips you got, let's just go through them and let's comment on them. So this is the Attorney General saying what he plans to do with the Tate brothers. Go for it.
Yeah, look, these guys have themselves publicly admitted to participating in what very much appears to be soliciting, trafficking, preying upon women around the world. Many of these victims coming forward, some of them minors, people can spin or defend however they want. But in Florida, this type of behavior is viewed as atrocious. We're not going to accept it. They chose to come here and set their feet down in this state. And we're going to pursue every tool we have within our legal authority to hold them accountable. So we are in the process today. We have secured and executed subpoenas and warrants, and we're going to continue to move forward with full force of law. This is an ongoing criminal investigation, and we're going to use every tool we have to ensure that justice is served.
Do you open a criminal investigation?
There is an active criminal investigation, yes.
Do you believe that can you give me any details of what?
I can't comment on a pending investigation, but what I can tell you is if these guys did criminal activity here in Florida, we will go after them with the full force of law and hold them accountable.
Okay, so the key sentence there was what? If these guys did.
If.
Okay, yeah, if these guys did, and anybody in the world that does that, if they did, but you have to prove that these guys did. Of course. Here's what Byron Donalds, because originally when we had Tate here, we talked about Ron DeSantis, and he, what's the good word to use it? There was a people that choose the titles for the clips. They said Andrew Tate destroyed Ron DeSantis, and that was trending all over the place, right? Maybe he did not hold back was a better way of saying it. There was no holding back with Tate on Ron, and then he supported Byron, what Andrew said. But here's what Byron said afterwards about Tate. Go forward.
The current Attorney General of Florida has announced he's opened a criminal investigation against Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan because in Romania, where they just came to Florida from, there were charges of rape, sex with minor, and trafficking, human trafficking. Do you support the Attorney General's actions here?
I do. I think those allegations have to be fully investigated, and then we go from there. The key thing is we don't tolerate the trafficking of women or, frankly, the abuse of women. We do not tolerate that. So if the Attorney General finds cause under Florida law to investigate that, then I wish him the best, and I support whatever he's going to do on that matter.
Are Andrew and Tristan Tate welcome in Florida?
No, quite frankly, not. Because if you listen to some of the dialogue, I find it to be demeaning and disgusting. That's not about being an alpha male. It's not about being a strong man. What they stand for, in my view, is something totally different.
Okay, so what was the words he said? If the allegations fully investigated, if there's abuse of women, trafficking, none of us are for that. They're not welcome to Florida. A little bit of a strange thing to say, but not welcome. I have a bunch of opinions on this. This is who? This is him and Candace. That's right. So, Rob, can you play this clip here? Go for it.
Come get me, arrest me, perp walk me, put me on the news, tell everyone I'm a human trafficker. You think I'm not versed? You think I'm not ready? I'm a Navy SEAL in this shit. Fucking come get me, raid my house, take my stuff. You think I sleep with a full phone full of evidence? You think I don't wipe my phone every night? You think I'm dumb? Come get me, arrest me. Let's do this all over again. I've done it for
Wow.
You think I don't go to sleep with a phone full of evidence? What does that mean? It's a little strange thing to say right there. Rob, what is there any other clips to play on this or no? That's fine to go right here. We'll go to the rest of it. Rob, go for it. Rob Smith, go for it.
What? Oh, I thought you talk about Rob. No, it's two Robs in the room. All right, so look, it's a political play by Team DeSantis here in Florida. I think to just go out and kind of like have the Attorney General say that, we're going to investigate, et cetera, et cetera. What this has to do is with the fact that Casey DeSantis is rumored to be running for governor, right? Yep. So this is all politics. And what it speaks to me, and this is the reason that DeSantis got destroyed in the primary, it's the reason that honestly, a lot of people that were on Team DeSantis are so dead in D.C. and MAGA world right now is because they do not read the room. They're all about politics. Now, Florida politics is very insular in the way, and I understand that Byron is running for governor of Florida as well, so he said what he said. But when Byron Donalds made the point, number one, it came up, he was prompted to say this. Like somebody asked him the question, he didn't lead with it, and he said, look, if, the Attorney General in Florida wants to investigate this and he finds something, I support him in that, right? But like I said, this is all coming from DeSantis' world. Look, DeSantis has been a great governor in Florida. I was very much a fan of him, still is, in terms of what he does in Florida. But this is naked politics, and this is also Team DeSantis trying to run to the left of anything that they see as sort of unseemly or any cultural figures that are very powerful in MAGA world. This is the reason that they are dead in D.C. This is the reason that Ron DeSantis spent a lot of his political capital running against Trump. I do not think that there's any real particular reason why they wanted to pick this fight other than to try to look good or more moderate or to the left of what they see as hardcore MAGA or even Trump in some ways.
Yeah, so this is Ron DeSantis posted this tweet yesterday or 2 days ago. Casey teeing off at Trump International Palm Beach, made birdie on the hole. Casey and Trump had no trouble winning the match. So meaning, hey, we're united with Trump. This is very important for DeSantis. The fact that Trump is okay with him posting this picture tells you another one of those moments that Trump wants to find a way to unify the party, and he wants to find a way to unify the MAGA community as well as the DeSantis community. But specific to the Tate, Adam, you ran a poll. Rob, if you want to pull up the poll that he ran on Instagram, your thoughts on what's going on with the Tate?
Look, I'm actually very disappointed in the Florida government right now. I mean, if you told me something like this happened in New York, if you told me like something like this happened in California, if you told me something like this happened in Chicago or a blue state, I'd be like, all right, I could see that. But Florida, where woke goes to die, the free state of Florida, these guys haven't been charged or convicted of anything. It's all allegations, and I'm not making any apologies for what they may or may have done. I'm just stating the facts here. But Florida, as a lifelong Floridian, my entire life, I'm actually like, I don't even feel comfortable saying how I truly feel for the first time in my life, because maybe the Attorney General is going to open up an investigation on something he hears on the internet. And I get that the Tate say some things that are incredibly shocking. But like I made the analogy the other day, it's like when Hulk Hogan or The Rock or Macho Man Randy Savage say some ridiculous stuff, they're playing a character. And in many components, Tate, when he does his online persona, is playing a character. Can we at least admit that? How many times has Tate put on the sunglasses to play the character, and then he goes, let me take these off to make my point? Like, it's almost like Superman's cape. Those are his glasses. So, Governor DeSantis, who we've been very congratulatory towards and say great things, he comes and says, you're not welcome. Why? Are there any crimes? It's almost like they want to find the man and then find the crime. And then Tate called it absolute communism. So it's very confusing. But based on this poll, and it's not like my particular Instagram audience is like completely right-wing, probably have a center-right audience. 80% said, no, Tate's the man. He's free the top G. Or, I don't agree with everything he says, but I do respect him. 80%. The other 20% say, not a fan, but I see why people are. And only 6% say, I hate him with a passion, lock him up. So based on a pretty moderate audience, 80% of people like Tate.
Vinny, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I just feel, I think it's hypocritical with DeSantis and all these guys that were just so anti, Joe Biden's weaponization of the justice system, going after Trump for everything that they were saying that he was doing, all the charges, everything. You don't like the fact that he was talking shit about you. So now you guys are sending the attorney general. By the way, he took Pam Bondi's job, that AG. You're looking for a crime now and you nailed it, Pat. Right now, if they just start an investigation on someone, you don't think people are going to come out and be like, yeah, I'll say something. Yeah, you know what they'll do? They'll be like, did you feel uncomfortable in that room with him? Yeah. Did Andrew Tate make you feel weird? Or did you hook up with him? Oh, were you uncomfortable during the sex? They're looking for something because they don't like him. And you nailed it, Rob. This is, they're trying to get, it's election season. She wants to do her thing. What was Byron Donalds going to do? Go up there and be like, no, man, I like that they're alphas and they're trying to hook up with chicks. No, they have to do it because at the end of the day, even though I love Byron, being from New York, being from Brooklyn, you're still a politician. These are the things that you have to say. But these guys, and again, this still goes down to Andrew. I didn't get to ask him the other day. You're talking the talk. They're gonna do it. They're gonna come after you. And I don't think he's gonna back down. He's gonna keep doing it, and it is what it is.
Here's what I got. Okay, before we go to the top G, Tom Ellsworth. But here's my thoughts on
top T.
Tate.
Top
okay.
E.
So a few things to go through. If these guys did XYZ, yeah. If they did, they did. Mm-hmm. There's nothing we control over the guests that we have on and people that we talk to. If there's a crime that's done, a crime is done. I have kids. When I go to school and they get in trouble and they tell me, and then they have tape, and you see and say, hey, bro, you punched the guy. What do you want me to tell you? And then we go back and we're like, pull up the tape. And they pull up the tape, and the kid punched my son first, and then he punched him back. They kicked my son out of a soccer camp, Tico.
Oh, really?
And he's like, Dad, I'm telling you, you and I have a relationship. I don't lie to you. He hit my stomach. I punched him in the face. I said, he did not hit you in the stomach. He says, Dad, I'm telling you, he's crying now. Yeah. And that's not, he doesn't do that. I know. I'm like, dude, I called the owner back. I said, do you have tape for the protection of kids? I noticed on your site you said you have tape. We do. Play the tape back. I want to see it. And then you have to call me back. No problem, sir. We'll get back to you. They call me an hour later. Voice is cracking. What happened? Your son is right. Huh. He punched him in the stomach first, then he punched him in the face and dropped him. And the only thing we saw was him being punched, and we kicked your son out. We apologized to him. So you don't need to apologize to me. You didn't do anything to my ego. He needs to hear it from you guys. I said, what'd you guys do to the other kid? We called the parents. That kid can never come here ever again.
Wow.
We take him there. They apologize to him. He goes in there and trains. Guess what? The tape is there. If they're guilty, there's nothing even a fan, a supporter, a friend, a relative, a family, anybody can do.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it is, right? So let's go to the next one. Allegations fully investigated. Why? Are the allegations in Florida? Are you investigating for what he's doing in Florida? Okay. Not been here for 6 years. You want to investigate him for what he's doing in Florida? Okay. Based on what premises? Based on what issues? Based on what evidence? If you do, great. That's your job. Go do it. But if it's because of what they did in Romania, you want to do it here, do we have an extradition law between U.S. and Romania? Is there any kind? I know U.S. and UK have it from 06 and 03. or 07 and 03, but is there anything there with Romania? I don't know what the relationship there is with Romania. So are you working closely with Romania? Is that what you're doing?
I'm going to guess no, but I could.
The United States and Romania have an extradition treaty. The treaty was signed in Bucharest in 2007 and went into effect. Okay, so that's a different treaty.
But that's federal though, right? I mean,
yeah, but you're right. That's federal, but can they use it? So they would need Trump to come in, and Trump's answer was, I don't know anything about it. Then what's the other one? Abuse of women, trafficking. If they're accused of this by law, then they're guilty. Then that's the law. So let the law prove that this has happened. If it's happened, it's happened. And, when you're asked, you're not welcome to Florida, it's a little bit of, and by the way, for Tate is not helping himself out either when he's saying, you think I'm going to leave my stuff? You don't think I'm a pro? You don't think I know this? My phone?
That was a little weird.
That's like
you're poking the bear.
Yeah, anyways, that's a whole different conversation on
but
that
the question is, can you be charged, arrested, tried for being a loudmouth talker?
What do you mean? Look at Trump.
What do you mean? That's not the point here. Look, for my lifestyle, who's my lifestyle more close to? Tate or DeSantis?
DeSantis.
The way I live my life.
Yes,
obviously.
Way more DeSantis.
Way more DeSantis. Okay.
Yes.
Tom Tate, but whatever.
Who's this?
Tom's like
Tate.
Tate. Go ahead.
Nobody knows about
Don't
that.
talk about that. I'm sorry, Tom. I'm sorry that I
don't do
put
that
you
again, Vinny.
Sorry.
But to me,
yep.
Dude, we had Anthony Weiner here. Oh, you think we have Anthony Weiner because we support what he's done in his life? It's a conversation. No. Yeah. And some of the people don't realize we've had Tate on 2 other times. Each podcast was 5 hours. You know what things we asked about? Everything.
Everything, yeah.
This is like the 13th hour of a podcast we've done together. When he came to the States, you know why he feels comfortable here and he comes to the podcast? Because it's a conversation. It's safe. It's like, hey, where are you at? What do you want to do? You know what else I said? I hope he goes on Making Kelly. I hope he goes and does Making Kelly. I hope he goes, and I hope Ben Shapiro invites him, similar to how Newsom invited Charlie Kirk. Can you pull up the Newsom-Charlie Kirk thing? I hope Shapiro sends an invite. Can you imagine if Shapiro, you know what would be the biggest alpha play here? If Shapiro tweets out and says, hey, Tate, since you're in Florida, let's do a podcast together. Now, Tate may not trust to go there because, Ben is close to DeSantis, and he may feel like they may set him up, so he may have a little bit of concern there. Here's what Newsom did. There's Newsom and Charlie Kirk. Newsom invites Charlie Kirk on his podcast. Would you have ever guessed that he was going to do that?
Never.
But he did. Play this clip, Rob. Play this clip.
Trying to put my son to bed. He's like, no, Dad. What time? What time's Charlie going to be here? What time? And I'm like, dude, you're in school tomorrow. He's 13. He's like, no. This morning, wakes up at 6 something. He's like, I'm coming. I'm like, he literally would not leave the house.
Did you let him take off school?
No, he did. Of course not. He's not here for a good reason. But the point is,
you canceled school for like 2 years. Once one day.
Which is, you are making a damn dent.
Great comeback, Charlie Kirk.
Charlie's amazing.
Charlie's so damn good. By the way, Gavin Newsom's son, who's 13 years old, is a fan of Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
Read between the lines.
Yeah.
You think his son is woke and weird and
so? But by the way, the part I'm trying to say here is you're afraid of a conversation. Listen, say what you say about Newsom. I love the fact that he had Charlie Kirk on.
Yeah.
I can't wait to watch. When is it coming out? But I can't wait to watch the whole thing.
It might be.
I love.
I think
the fact,
it's got to be already.
Is
out.
it out? I haven't
It's
seen it. The
being
only thing
promoted
that's
like
the first clip I've ever seen
Yeah.
that Rob just played. I can't wait to see the podcast. So guess what? The Shapiros of the world, the Megyn Kellys of the world, invite him. Invite him and ask the questions, your questions, whatever they may be. Why don't you have the conversation? See where it goes. Yes, of course. And look, I don't know if he's going to say yes or not. They're definitely going to have a box of chocolate ready for him.
For sure.
When they go there.
Maybe not 250 grand.
I don't know if he's going to ask for the 250.
I think going back to this Florida thing, and another point that we should make as well, knowing that Casey DeSantis is likely going to run for governor, that this is all about, a woman running for governor, being tough on basically one of the biggest, figures of masculinity that exists in the world today, right? So visually, that's what that's about as well.
Great. Let's see if it works. If you're lobbying for that, what Trump has shown, pattern with Trump, absolute respect, absolute loyalty. He's extremely forgiving, as weird as it sounds. Typically, bosses are not forgiven. He's very forgiving. He moves on very quickly once you apologize. And then he lets competition decide who's going to be the leading candidate. And last minute, he will endorse whoever's able to do the work to get the support that they deserve. That's his formula. Very simple. That's how capitalists think. You have to forgive. Whenever you're in the sales business, you know what sales business does to you? Let me tell you what's the weirdest thing about sales business. Sales business, you cannot make it as a sales leader long term without learning forgiveness. You will not make it. You will not make it. Because your sales guys F up all the time. And they screw up and they say stuff to you and they go through the process and da-da-da-da-da. And you're like, we got to move on, man. What did you do? Okay, let's move on. What are you going to do this year? Let's go. Okay, I apologize. I effed up. Okay, great. Let's move on. That sales and business culture teaches you to learn how to move on. But anyways, thoughts on Tate? That's where we are with that. Now, here's another thing. Ben Shapiro, the same day that Tate is going through all this stuff, guess what Ben Shapiro comes out and says? Ben Shapiro comes out and says he's asking Trump, Rob, if you got this clip, to pardon. I'll let him say it. Go for it, Rob.
If we are issuing pardons, however, there is one person that President Trump should pardon from federal charges forthwith. It would be incredibly controversial, but I think that it's absolutely necessary. That person is Derek Chauvin. President Trump should, in fact, pardon Derek Chauvin. He should. He should pardon him his federal charges. If we are talking about reversing the evils of the last several years in American life, obviously COVID and its handling was a massive evil. Destroyed the economy, set us on a path to fiscal insanity, destroyed children, led to massive health-related cover-ups, just horrifying all the way around. And President Trump has taken on a lot of those things. But when it came to BLM, the inciting event for the BLM riots that caused $2 billion in property damage in the United States and set America's race relations on their worst footing in my lifetime, was in fact the railroading of Derek Chauvin in the death of George Floyd. The evidence demonstrates that Derek Chauvin did not, in fact, commit murder of George Floyd. George Floyd was high on fentanyl. He had a significant pre-existing heart condition. George Floyd was saying he could not breathe.
So this happens simultaneously. Elon Musk, Rob, responds, I believe, because Elon Musk take on 200. He says something to think about. He tweets this video out to 290 million followers on X and says this is something to think about. Newsweek says Chauvin serving a 22.5-year sentence for second-degree unintentional murder and a 21-year federal sentence for violating Floyd's civil rights, though Shapiro noted in a video that Trump's pardon power only applies to the federal charge, saying the Derek Chauvin conviction represents the defining achievement of the woke movement in American politics. Rob, your thoughts on this story?
I hate this so much, and I'm going to tell you exactly why I hate this. Number one, there is absolutely nothing beneficial that pardoning Chauvin would do for the Trump administration, for this country, for race relations, for anybody else. It is absolutely destructive. It makes no sense. And so for me, when I first saw this, generally conversations that happen come from the ground up. Usually there's some sort of murmuring under, and then it kind of like bubbles up, and then it becomes a national conversation. This seems to be a very top-down conversation that comes from somebody with an enormous amount of influence. This is nothing that anybody was talking about or thinking about. So it really makes me question, why is this conversation happening right now? It makes me question, why did Ben Shapiro want to start this conversation right now? Who does this benefit? Doesn't benefit Trump, doesn't benefit America, doesn't benefit race relations, it doesn't benefit anything. And the last point I'll make on it is this. There are very few people that can actually really speak to in depth what was going on in that trial, how how George Floyd actually died, et cetera, et cetera. There's probably 5 people that have, spent the bulk of their day on a podcast set every single day, like Ben Shapiro, like maybe 2 or 3 other people that can really talk to you in depth about this. So then they're positioning themselves to say, no, listen to me. I'm the one who really knows about this. So what? Trump's agenda is supposed to be derailed. Where we're at as a country right now is supposed to be derailed because these leftists and these Democrats are looking for a reason to have another race war. That is what they love. So why this conversation is happening right now, I have no idea.
So you're not for it at all?
No.
Interesting.
I am not.
Interesting. Vinny, yourself.
Well, it's weird. I sent Rob some of the clips, Rob, of Ben Shapiro back in the day talking about how great it was that they should definitely go after Derek Chauvin and how he deserves it and all this, and I'll have them put it up. But it doesn't make any sense if the evidence is there, which, listen, it's more than likely that he died of all the fentanyl and all the stuff in his body and all that stuff. Then you know what? Retrial, do something different. But for Ben Shapiro, who was at that State of the Union, whatever the hell it was, standing there, kind of applauding with kind of a whatever face, The only option that I would think of is that this guy, he must not like Donald Trump. Why the hell else would you, because you, listen, innocent or not, you free Derek Chauvin today. What does this weekend look like in the country? The country is going to be set on fire, and who's the president? Donald Trump. So for Ben to say something like that now, out of nowhere, after he said all this type of stuff, and Rob, if you just put it up, all he's saying is like government has one primary function to prevent the violation of rights of life and liberty. The police officer destroyed George Floyd's rights. That is no excuse for our government abandoning citizens' rights to life and liberty in favor of rioters and looters. Do your damn jobs. Why the flip-flop and why right now? The only conclusion, my opinion, Vincent Oshana, is that he wants civil war and something crazy to happen under Trump. I don't know what his motive.
So? I don't know about that. That's a little. That's.
Well, why would you? Hold on.
Let me tell you why. Though. Let me tell you why. First of all, just so you know, I had no idea. You didn't show me this before the podcast. I don't know he tweeted this. I don't mind reading the other two. I returned to a 2-day Jewish holiday and 5 the country is on fire. We all agree George Floyd, which is why bad cop is on the arrest on anyone who defends looting and rioting and targeting business on cops. Okay. You're not stealing that TV to honor George Floyd. Okay, so that's other stuff.
Yeah.
So let me tell you why I don't think that's the case. And my likelihood of that being the case is less than 10%. Rob, can you pull up the picture of him and Matt Walsh being at what do you call it? They were
State of the Union.
They were at the State of the Union. Why are they at the State of the Union? Why are they standing next to all those people?
They were guests of
Why
Donald
are they?
Trump.
They're guests
Of Donald Trump
No,
invite you?
they're guests of the speaker specifically.
Somebody, the speaker.
They're there. So
Yes.
they're at the Are they there? You think the average person knows they're there because of the speaker? You think they're there because Trump approved that these guys can be there?
Yeah.
You think Trump's going to be okay if the speaker, let's just say Speaker Johnson invites someone that really Trump can't stand, and Trump looks up and he sees them there. He's going to say, "Why'd you invite them?" You don't think he's that delicate, that intentional? If I'm running meetings and one of my guys brings a guy intentionally that I said, "What are you doing with that guy being in here?" I would catch that. No, he's there because Trump approved him. So Trump's ability to play politics. Remember, who said it? Van Jones said, "Let's face it, Trump is the greatest politician of our lifetime." He said this after they lost. If you remember, November 6th is when he said that. So whatever the date was when he said that. So I think Trump is playing the game very well with everybody, and they're there because Trump wanted them to be there. I don't think that's the case. I don't think it's you can debate the fact that it's not a good idea and it's a terrible timing. You can say the fact that, the Paul brothers have a documentary coming out, have a show coming out, right? It's called Paul Americans or American Pauls or something like that. American Pauls, something like that. A show's coming out. The trailer is sick, right? The way they really, it's such a great trailer that you want to watch it. And in one of the clips, Logan says, it's not about being liked. It's all about getting attention. That's what he says. Guess what? He gets a lot of attention. Shapiro is getting attention.
Yeah.
Okay. So whether you agree with it or not, but to say that he's trying to hurt Trump and all that.
We're missing why Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh were there. There was Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh, the Daily Wire, were instrumental in bringing the no boys and girls sports. They were instrumental in mainstreaming that conversation in a way that I'd never had before. And even Matt Walsh was instrumental, even locally in Tennessee, ending some of that stuff, right? So that's why the two of them were there, because, they were sitting right next to Riley Gaines, obviously an icon in that movement, right? So that's why they were there, I think. I don't think that it had anything to do with the fact that, Trump loves them or anything like that. I think it was very specific to that, and he brought that up in the State of the Union address.
I don't know it's about Trump loves them. I just think that Trump is playing politics, that he knows Shapiro and Netanyahu and that community and Daily Wire. Trump's understanding what he's also doing. Trump is not somebody that doesn't make moves 100%. Accidentally.
Yeah, but here's my thing, though. That came out. When did that clip come out of Ben Shapiro?
Day before.
Was it the day before?
Or day before?
I think I saw it the day of.
Could be.
I saw it the
I
day
don't know,
of.
but it's within 24 hours.
I think we all agree, Ben is really, really, really smart, okay? Let's put that over here.
He is smart.
Why? I'm just asking, what would that do? Because he's smart. If Trump says, I'm pardoning Derek Chauvin, what happens to the country? Honestly, it's going to be all out insanity. George Soros' freaking BLM is going to get triggered, Antifa and everything. So that's why my opinion, Vincent Oshana's on his own. I'm thinking there's something that this comes out of nowhere. Where did this come from? For Ben to say that makes me go, wait a minute. The only outcome is negativity in this country, right? And the president is Donald Trump. I don't like it.
So I agree with the hypothesis. I don't necessarily agree with your conclusion. Like, oh, well, he wants to talk about Derek Chauvin, so he must hate Donald Trump and he wants a civil war. So I don't know how you got there, but I respect your
Pretty
opinion.
simple.
Yeah, but it's
the country was on fire because of the situation.
I get
and you don't think black people are going to be furious that we're walking around and burning down churches and beating the shit out of people?
Well,
okay,
I understand.
We have a different opinion.
I understand where you got there.
Okay.
Relax. I know you're the angry patriot. I love you.
I love
Calm
you
down.
too.
Let me get to this thing. Just because he came up with this idea doesn't mean it's actually going to happen. Doesn't mean it's going to be implemented. Doesn't mean that anybody's going to hear this. But I think what Ben, who's one of the smarter guys out there, realizes is I think a lot of us don't really fully understand that we were tricked. Because I was one of those guys. I fell for the Russia thing. I fell for the George Floyd thing. And then looking back at it, it's like, maybe the media played us. Maybe the media kind of really motivated us to want to see this guy, Derek Chauvin, go to jail and go to hell. I mean, I remember whether it's George Floyd, whether it was Eric Garner, whether it was Michael Brown, Freddie Gray, Fernando Castillo, all these names, you would think, based on the media, that cops are just going around mowing down black people left and right. Oh my, and like, as someone who has a heart, someone who has eyes, if you turn on the media and the only thing you see is, it happened again today, they got another one. Black people are going to get upset. Anybody that is empathetic is going to get upset. Anyone's going to get upset by seeing, oh my God, this is actually happening. But it turns out it's actually definitely not happening. Because PBD had the guy, the Harvard professor, Roland Fryer, was that his name, Pat? He came on, black guy, by the way, and I'll never forget the story that he told. He came up with this conclusion, and he came up with a report. I think he said he hired 8 data researchers, attorneys to find out what was actually going on in the black communities with police. And the answer was nothing. So he goes, nah, can't be. Did another whole set of research. And it came to the conclusion that no, police are not just going around killing and shooting black people. So the people at Harvard, the people of the professional elite, what did they tell him, Pat? They're like, do not put this out there. Did they not say
got
that?
in trouble for it, yeah.
They said, do not put this out there. This is going to go against our entire narrative. And he's like, no, I'm going to do it. And the findings were this. Maybe there was a little bit of like minor stuff, like, hey, what are you doing? You're jaywalking, that kind of stuff.
Where are you going with your
The point is this. He found that it's actually not true. So what I'm saying is maybe Ben Shapiro is realizing, listen, he might have fell for it too. And I know that it's only a small thing. Maybe this guy is just one minor blip on the radar.
Got it. Okay.
But maybe
So
he
that's what you were
actually
trying to say
believes that
this
he's
entire
sitting
time.
there in jail
Yeah.
fraudulently, and the media lied to us.
Okay. So were you going to say something? You look
No,
like
no,
okay,
no, I
yeah.
was just listening.
So what I would say with this part to me is this, Vinny. Do you think Shapiro is Team Trump or Team DeSantis?
DeSantis.
No question.
100%.
He's a DeSantis
it's DeSantis.
conservative. 100%.
He's a DeSantis conservative.
Okay, I get, but
Wait. What are you doing? You're saying no, he's not?
I'm just saying, if this were a year ago, I can understand this. At this point, DeSantis is literally irrelevant.
No,
like what?
No, DeSantis is not
he's the
irrelevant.
governor of Florida. He has
Not
no.
irrelevant.
You think that Florida? That's false.
Based on what he did with Tate, he's a little bit more relevant.
But the point, it's a very basic
but
question.
Trump, you're saying that DeSantis
You
is
think-
even in
you
Trump's
think
league
Ben
at this point?
You think Ben Shapiro would have preferred a DeSantis president or Trump president?
Okay, he maybe would have preferred a DeSantis, sure. But at
because-
this point, like the conversation's over. Trump's the president.
Buddy, I didn't ask you for a 17-second monologue answer.
It wasn't. It was a simple answer.
Which one do you think he would have preferred? A Trump or a DeSantis?
He probably would have preferred DeSantis
Okay.
a year ago.
So to what Vinny is saying, I understand that there's a percentage of people that may say he's doing this because, hey, disruption or whatever. Fine. Let's give that a little bit of credence that is taking place. Let me give the opposing side to why I don't believe that's the way to go. Trump's the wrong guy to mess with right now. Wrong guy to mess with right now. It could be career ending. It could be losing 2 to 4 years of momentum. I don't know how Daily Wire's business is doing right now. I don't have any idea. Maybe they're killing it. Maybe they're not. Maybe, they used to not be that friendly with Fox, a little bit more friendly with Fox. Maybe they want Fox to buy Daily Wire right now. Maybe they kind of want to, hey, financially, our investors are kind of pissed off at us because they go, we got to get the returns, and you got Brett Cooper, and you got this, and you got that, and you got Candace, and you got all this stuff that's happening. Everybody thought, oh, Candace going to valuetainment. That's the person behind closed doors on the lawsuits. It's Patrick. Yeah, okay. No, I'm friends with almost everybody from all sides. I'm friends with Cuomo. I'm friends with Candace. I'm friends with a lot of people on many different fronts. Sports, business, politics. I get along with a lot of people. Entertainment. I have a lot of conversations with people I agree and disagree with. But to me, they may have some other things behind closed doors that they're trying to kind of figure out of things to get to do. Let me tell you how investors work. The moment EBITDA numbers drop, loans, Tom, you and I have been through this game many, many times. And you know what happens eventually when you keep going back to investors saying, we need another 200 million, we need another 100 million, we need another 50 million. Eventually they're like, maybe it's time to sell is what we got to do. Maybe it's time to this. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if all of a sudden we heard news that, either Daily Wire's raising another round from somebody that's coming in equity partner, whatever, or a Fox interest reports coming out that maybe Daily Wire is trying to get themselves to get a little bit closer because they would be open to the idea of Fox buying them, and what is the valuation, all this other stuff. I don't know. But all I know is right now, Trump carries so much weight that, guess what? It's not about him needing you as much as you needing him today. Trump doesn't need anybody today. He's choosing to build relationships today. Not because he needs them desperately, because he's choosing to. He is probably the most diplomatic I've ever seen him be. Ever. I don't know if I've ever seen him be more diplomatic. I know this sounds kind of weird because you don't think about diplomacy when you think about Trump. It's the most diplomatic. He said, President Zelenskyy sent a letter wanting to do this, and I have to say this. I appreciate the president's letter. I appreciate the president's letter. Thank you for sending the letter. What? He's not. He's going there. So again, you're right that thought could be in there, but I think not now because they have nothing they can do to hurt this guy.
They
nothing.
can't.
It's a second term.
Yeah. So this is what I think. There's two different types of Republicans and conservatives right now, right? And so we're definitely like MAGA, and I get that. But there is a group of conservatives, Republicans that is more in line. And so when we talk about the DeSantis versus Trump thing, it's not necessarily about DeSantis versus Trump because that's a tired conversation. I don't think anybody's having that conversation. But it's about the type of people that are really drawn to Trump and the type of people that are really drawn to DeSantis. And there are some Republicans in D.C. right now that do not like these things that Trump are doing. Okay, these are establishment conservatives and Republicans that have been around for a very long time. They do not like any of this. They don't like dismantling USAID. They do not like dismantling the Department of Education. They see this stuff as crazy. And so there's a lot of people right now that are positioning themselves kind of like to the left of MAGA. And I think that's kind of like what's going on here.
28.
That's it. You're right.
28.
100%.
28. But guess what? Wrong time.
I agree.
It's a wrong time.
Yeah. I agree.
Time. Now, so wrong time.
Bad timing.
Yeah, bad timing. I think Q1 2027 is good timing. Q1 2025, bad timing. Way 2 more years. Okay. Tom, coming to you with this one. Emails prove Karen Bass, mayor of LA, office knew of critical fire risk before LA mayor skipped off to Africa. Not a good look. And Nicole Shanahan and a bunch of other guys are getting involved in this one here. So let me read the story. Rob, is that a clip you got there?
So I have the fire chief who was fired by Karen Bass talking about Karen Bass being warned about the fires beforehand.
So that's the clip from here.
And then I also have a few clips of the recall efforts.
You're the man. Play that clip first. Let's look at that clip. So this is the former LA Fire Department chief that got fired by the mayor. Go for it.
It is also a false allegation that we failed to notify the mayor's office about the upcoming weather event. I stand by our previous statements about this. The LAFD engaged in all of its standard communications, including emailing 2 separate media advisories, conducting multiple live and recorded media interviews about the predicted extreme weather and fire danger, and also notifying city officials about the upcoming weather events. The Emergency Management Department also plays a key role in notifying the mayor's office and city officials. And the mayor's office itself also set out multiple media messages prior to the fire's warnings.
Okay, so that's not good, right? What else do you have, Rob, outside of that?
So I have a news report of the recall, if you want to play that, or I have a promo video that the recall effort has put out.
By Nicole Shanahan?
Yes.
Okay, go for it.
This has the potential for 200 plus acres in the next 20 minutes. We have a potential for structures being threatened in the next 20 minutes.
She put this together? Wow.
Crews trying to contain those massive Los Angeles wildfires.
At least 24 people have tragically been killed. When the fires broke out, LA Mayor Karen Bass was in Africa.
We know that there was warnings about the weather before you went.
When she returned, instead of answering critical questions from reporters, she chose to just ignore those questions and stay silent.
Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning? Madam Mayor, have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today who are dealing with this disaster?
We'll accept on blame, right? So at the LA Times, we endorse Karen Bass. That's a mistake, and we admit
Owner
that.
of LA Times.
There are calls for Karen Bass to resign, and those calls are getting louder.
Damn. Rob, that's by Nicole Shanahan?
That is by the organization leading the recall, which she has supported. I'm not sure if she directly had anything to do with this video.
Could
but
be funding, could be money. She's got money. Tom, your thoughts?
Well, first of all, Karen Bass and Deputy Mayor Zach Seidel, have been caught here. And this recall effort, you're going to see more ads and more things that are showing that, oh, I was never informed. And they're playing this ticky-tack game. You know, it's like, Dad, you didn't tell me I had to go to bed at 8:30 tonight. Well, wait a minute. You go to bed at 8:15, you have to read books, lights out at 8:30 every night. But you didn't say it tonight. That is the kind of game that is getting played here. But guess what's coming out? What's coming out is emails that say, whoops, there is emails from the Emergency Management Department, EMD, that were warning him. And then Seidel gets caught because he said, well, I saw tentative. The tentative was in the time, in the time for the phone call to take place. It said tentative 8:30. And so he's saying, well, I thought the whole thing was tentative. No, it wasn't a tentative warning. The time was tentative. So they are trying to play games with everything, and it got deeper over the last week and a half. It's gotten much deeper, where people can see two things happened. Number one, the mayor's office, Deputy Mayor Seidel and Karen Bass knew about it. They knew it was coming, and warnings had been received by them. The warnings got worse only 20 hours into her trip. So 20 hours into the trip, it's like, hey, man, they just escalated this. And so that's coming out. The last part that's coming out is that it turns out that the fire chief worked really hard to do this and that, and there was previous policies. Now, was the fire chief innocent? No. But was the fire chief made the fall girl here? Absolutely. And that's what's worse. So now part of the recall effort is going to be the previously employed fire chief, and you're going to see her interviewed. So here's my if the Angelenos will look at everything that's in front of them and ignore their political biases and listen to people like Sun, who owns the LA Times, and be objective about this, Karen Bass should get recalled. They need about 315,000. They need 15% of registered voters on a petition, basically a recommendation petition. And they've got 6,000 so far. They need 315, but it just started. So as soon as they have that, then it will go to recall. But will the voters of LA come out and step aside from their political viewpoints and look at this objectively?
No, but I actually don't.
So let me ask you this. So
that's my if.
Yeah. So here's the question. The recall for Newsom was what, 57-43, some number like that?
It might even been more than that.
No, I think it was, and then it dropped lower. What did it end up being? Percentage-wise? I may be wrong. I don't know why I remember.
I remember he had 60-something percent.
I remember it was 64, and then it dropped to like a Lower. There you go. 62-38.
yeah.
Okay. So 62-38 is what the recall was. But that's when? 21.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what? COVID, like almost COVID, middle of it. This is after fires. This is L.A. This is legit L.A. taking place.
Driving by it every day right
That's
now.
right. Do you think it's a different recall because it's specific to a city instead of a state?
I believe it is, and I still say if the voters will look around and look at this evidence, this should be a fairly straightforward recall.
Tom, I wish it was that was the case, but look who we're talking about. We're talking about people in California that are freaking brainwashed with Stockholm syndrome. It's not going to change. And going to this story, Karen Bass, knowing the fires were coming, okay, but conveniently leaving the country. Is like, you ever watch those shows where the wife hires a hitman to take out the husband, but they just happen to be on vacation when it all goes down? That's plausible deniability. That's her leaving, and that's why she had that.
Gets it.
Yeah, thank you. And that's why she had that face while she's questioning. You know what you did. I don't know the motive of why would you not want to be there when you knew it was coming. Why not try to prevent it? But yeah, guys. As much as I want to say, I hope, because all my family, Pat's in California. I mean, they don't vote with stuff like this, but it's not going to change. These people, you're not going to change. They're not going to vote any of these people out. Not her, not Newsom, never.
I think that people really don't understand how brainwashed people in these places are.
Thank you.
Like you do not understand. I lived in New York for over a decade, probably for about 15 years. These people are so locked into their ideological agenda that they will not move away from it. And by the way, Karen Bass is a black woman, and that is God to Democrats. Yeah. And anybody that is criticizing a black woman or will literally say this is what you should have done, that was not done, automatically they're going to be put as racist or they hate black women, etc. And number one, do not think that they're not going to play that card, because that is the first card that they're going to go to when people actually start criticizing her. There was a couple of these Hollywood actresses, black women, that were in something or other. And I remember started seeing them do a lot of social media stuff about how everybody's being so racist and so mean to Karen Bass. I was like, oh, so they're getting paid. And there's going to be a lot more money spread around to a lot of these black entertainment figures in LA to stand for quote unquote Karen Bass, right?
Adam.
I think this broad is finished. I mean, are you kidding me? I think the day that she showed up and from Ghana for the inauguration of the president, and she said nothing. Like watching the movie, like Silence of the Bass, like she looks so stupid, dumb, uninformed, unequipped. Just you got nothing to say. At least Gavin Newsom will put some spin and some slickness and some hair gel and kind of spin it and at least give you the impression like, maybe he's got something. This was such a disaster. And if you ask me, like, who's the mayor of LA? I'm like, I don't know. I know exactly who this lady is now. She's the lady that landed from Ghana when her city was burnt on fire and had nothing to say. That's what I know about her. And I think the people of the city, as brainwashed as they are and as much as they have Trump derangement syndrome, who she ran against was Rick Caruso. She only beat him by a little bit. And if you're judging, some COVID lockdown masks in 2020 versus your city burnt down, bro, I'm assuming that she's going to be a goner and she deserves everything she gets.
By the way, again, it's concentrated, Vinny. That's the difference. She barely, look at that, 54.8 to 45.2 by, say, 89,000 votes, which is a good amount of votes because it's 420 to 509. But it's concentrated LA. So the problem was like this with Newsom. So not everybody was feeling the pain. The problem is like this for her.
Yeah.
Everybody within the city feels the pain. It's more concentrated. And a lot of Hollywood people are done with her and they want Caruso. Like literally people want Caruso on the left.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
When's this going down, Pat? When's the actual...
Well, we're going to see. I'm sure we're going to be seeing more and more if it happens.
They need 315,000 signatures, and we can check into that every day. Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna learn more about this. Let's go to the next story here. Trudeau says U.S. wants to collapse Canada's economy with tariffs. Rob, if you got this clip here, he gave a 22-minute message that if you go on CNN's YouTube page and you see how it performed, just to kind of put things to say, well, nobody cares what he has to say, go to CNN's YouTube page. Okay, so just if you don't mind, just go to their channel and then go to the videos and don't go fully down yet, Rob. Zoom in a little bit so we can look at the view so the audience can see this. Yeah, there you go. Watch this. 36,000 views, right? Just look at the videos. Go a little higher up because I can't see nothing. 37, 93, 28, keep going. 35, 33, 5,200, 126, 346,000 views about dealership, 627 about Zelenskyy, about Trump, 142, 232, 738 is about the Supreme Court, 38, 462, 258, 204, 5,000, 186, 480, 13,000, 10 million.
Wow.
Trudeau. People want to hear what he had to say. Click on it. Look how many comments it was. Zoom in on the comments, please.
Damn.
96,000 comments. Look how many likes on the video. Go all the way up to the video. Go all the way. You may not be thinking about it. 272,000. This is a real issue that people are following closely because of what he had to say. Go ahead and play the clip on what he said, Rob. If you got the clip, yeah, go for it.
The excuse that he's giving for these Paris tariffs today of fentanyl is completely bogus, completely unjustified, completely false. So we actually have to fall back on the one thing he has said repeatedly, that what he wants is to see a total collapse of the Canadian economy. Because that'll make it easier to annex us, is the second half of his thought. Now, first of all, that's never going to happen. We will never be the 51st state. But yeah, he can do damage to the Canadian economy, and he's started this morning. But he is rapidly going to find out, as American families are going to find out, that that's going to hurt people on both sides of the border. Americans will lose jobs. Americans will be paying more for groceries,
Pause it right
for gas.
there. Play the clip I just texted you, Rob. So this is the next clip on what he said. And I think this is the clip that's going to get him in trouble. But it's okay. He fell for the trap. If you can play this next clip of him, watch what he says about...
I don't like this at all.
This is the one. This is the one. Go ahead, Rob. Make it bigger, please. There you go.
Are not angry at the American people for this. We don't have anything against Americans. Americans are our neighbors, our friends, our partners. We do things together. We've done things together for decades and generations. This is a policy decision by the American government designed to go after the Canadian economy. This is a trade war, yes. But Canadians are hurt. Canadians are angry.
Get to the point, buddy.
We're going to choose to not go on vacation in Florida or Old Orchard Beach or wherever.
I don't know. I see all Canadians here.
We're going to choose to try to buy Canadian products and forego bourbon and other classic American products.
Get to the point, guy.
Yeah, we're probably going to keep
You and
booing
him would him got him.
the American
Good
anthems.
conversation.
But
Can you
let
pause
me
it at
tell
this point?
Americans,
So he's saying we're
not
going to
booing-
choose not to go to Florida and we're going to not buy bourbon. We're not going to go there. I'm not going to lie to you. I go to the soccer thing with the kids. It's as if every parent I talk to came here and escaped Canada.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing. Vinny, your thoughts on this here with Trudeau?
Well, first of all, telling him to stop doing this and vacation, all that. Let's like, first of all, we protect this freaking loser. Okay, God bless you. You're allergic to the bullshit. I get it. He dishes out a lot of it. We keep their economy alive. 75% of the exports come from us. We provide energy. We provide safety. We provide protection. For him to say, to boo and do all this shit to our national anthem, it's like, if he wants to act like an enemy, we should treat him like one. Cut off their freaking tourism, shut down any economic advantage we give them. No more hands out, no more cover. You know what I thought about? Ban Canadian teams, ban them from the U.S. for one season. NHL, MLB, NBA, these leagues rely on our audiences to suspend their ability to play games on U.S. soil. And if your dumbass wants to, Raptors.
They're going to play at the YMCA.
Yeah, you want to say boo?
Blue
Let's see
Jays.
how you act without our fucking money, okay? Justin Trudeau. And the only reason, by the way, he's popular and cool. Have your election and get the hell out of here, bro. Booing us, that's the biggest form of disrespect I feel. Tom, I think it's bullshit. No more sports for a year. Trump should say, you know what? Get your asses back to Canada and play that game with us. He's playing, just like Ukraine, you're starting a war that you know you're not going to win, period.
Well, actually, he's not popular and cool. The polls in Canada have not moved that much. This guy is still, number one, incredibly unpopular. Number two, he has resigned. He's in the middle of a pending resignation. He just hasn't put a date on it because he has a Chuck Schumer of Canada named Jag Meat that is working with him to stay. So now he's running to the microphone to stay relevant. And if all of these Canadians believe that this is only Trump getting after him, why has this guy moved barely 5 points on these horrifying polls that he's on? Why? Why haven't people said, wait a minute, Justin's okay. He's our guy. No, that's not what they're saying. They're saying, we don't want you here, and we don't want you here because of, tell me where this sounds familiar, because of immigration reform, inflation, and the overall economy. Gee, that sounds a little familiar. Yeah. And what's about to happen in their election is not very different from what's going to happen in our election, except their version of conservative is more liberal than our version of conservative. And so he is the same guy he was. And you know what? Talk to me in a week. Let's see who blinks on this. Let's see what happens. And by the way, Justin, come down here and check it out. There are Canadian license plates all over the place in Florida, enjoying the warm weather, enjoying the winter of relief for their arthritis. And you are up there still suffering under these polls, dude. And you're just running to relevance on this. He is just another angry. He is a deranged, angry
Say it,
man.
Tom. Say it. Say it. Say what you want to say, Tom.
He's an Adam.
We got it.
A deranged, angry man.
So here's a question. When you think about, it's kind of like anyways, I was about to make it. I'm not going to do it. But it's like.
I want to know now.
No.
Tell me afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you know what's funny, though? Here's what's funny. Think about who, as a world leader, has a shittier resume than him and a worse approval rating, the fact that people are done with him. Mm-hmm. And even with that, Pierre Poilievre couldn't beat him.
That's what's the sad part.
Well, you know why it's not sad? Because every time we invited Pierre, arrogant, pompous team, the only podcast he ever did is Jordan Peterson. So let me get this straight. You saw Milei win because he went everywhere. You saw Bukele win, he went everywhere. You saw Trump win because he went everywhere. You saw Bobby win because he went everywhere. You saw Vivek become a superstar because he went everywhere. And you don't, you deserve losing. And you didn't win. And I said that to Canadians who love him. The candidate you adore and admire and love doesn't want to work. God forbid he has to cross the border and go talk to other borders to bring attention. God forbid, too much travel time. He's got to eat his apple. He's got to eat his apple because he's got to get his apple in his system. Go to New York, do a damn podcast outside of Jordan Peterson. Go do Joe Rogan's podcast. Go to some other podcast and talk to Lex. Go talk to whatever these other podcasts are. Go talk to Andrew Schultz down the street from you in New York. And you lost to Justin. You couldn't beat him. That's embarrassing. So that's the part also, Vinny, where the opposition is so arrogant and confident that they're going to win that they lose. How many clips did we see of Pierre going viral?
A bunch.
Rob, just go type in his name and type in go on YouTube, Rob, and type in his name if you could. Just type in YouTube, Pierre Poilievre. It's very easy to spell. Pierre, Pierre.
There you
right
go.
there. Just go to that one. And then go to filters and go to views. Okay? Go to filters and go to views. Just play, what is that one? Response to questions about Canadian sovereignty. Yeah. Maybe go to one that has to do with Trudeau. Right there. Play the second one. Watch this. Watch this.
This is the debate.
Can you
by this wacko prime minister.
Go back a little bit, Rob.
An end to this wacko policy by this wacko prime minister.
No. I'm going to ask the honourable Leader of the Opposition to withdraw that term, which is not considered parliamentary.
Mr. Speaker, I replace wacko with extremist. He is an
The honourable member to please, I'm going to ask the Leader of the Opposition once again to just withdraw that comment, please.
I'll replace it with radical fascist policy.
I am not asking to replace. I'm asking the honourable member to just simply withdraw.
Mr. Speaker, I replace the word wacko with extremist.
I'm going to ask the honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Go back. You get the idea, right? Go back a little. Let's go to another one, okay, to see how talented this guy is. Go to this next one. Taxpayer funded. Okay, play this one here, Rob.
I'd like to welcome the Prime Minister back from his $80,000 vacation, which he got for free. He said, like most Canadians, friends welcomed him for that vacation. He took two, not one, but two private jets paid for by the taxpayer, burning 100 tons of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere.
Go back, Rob. So now go all the way to the top if you could, and just type in podcast next to him. And do me a favor, eliminate his first name, just put Paul Olivier Podcast, and go to filters and go to views. And let's see what podcast he's done. Okay, zoom in. 18? So Jordan Peterson, 2 months ago, 5 million. He needs to do that once every other month. Okay, keep going lower. Specific to podcast. Keep going. That's another Jordan Peterson from 2 years ago. It's the only one he does. Keep going lower.
None.
Keep going lower.
He's eating an apple.
Keep going lower. Keep going lower.
Nothing.
Keep going lower.
Nothing.
Keep going lower. Another Jordan Peterson. Keep going lower. Keep going lower. Keep going lower. Other people are talking about him. Yeah. So guess what? You can be as talented as you want and as strong as you want, and you think you've won without earning the right to win. You don't believe in capitalism. You just want it to be handed to you. I'm sorry, Canadians. You need a better candidate that's willing to work their asses off to make Canada great again. And this guy didn't want to work. I watched him give messages. I'm like, what a great message. Get your ass in front of cameras. Didn't want to do it. Go talk to people. Pierre Poilievre campaigned the same exact way as Kamala Harris did. When it comes down to campaigning, not policies, he is Kamala Harris. Pierre, your hero that you guys wanted, does not want to work. I hope Canadians see this and send it around and blast him and encourage him to go talk to the biggest podcast in Canada. He's not too good for podcasts in Canada. He's only talking to Jordan Peterson. Go talk to the people. You say you want to be a man of the people? Go be the man of the people. That's what Milei did. That's what others did. Locked up behind camera just talking to Jordan Peterson and mainstream type of people. This is 2025. A 78-year-old man did laps around you. And he went and took it from the other guys with all the games they played. You just want to sit there, play easy. Very disappointed. The reason why I'm disappointed is because I love the people of Canada. Mm-hmm. We have so many great friends in Canada. I have so many memories of going to Canada, going to Lake Louise, staying at the Chateau Fairmont Hotel in Lake Louise, or going to Banff, or going to Toronto to eat at the restaurant. You know, Goodfellas that had some incredible burrata cheese with the owners, bringing out to me the pizza that they would make in a little mobster-looking type of a restaurant, or going and doing business with people like at Forrester's Insurance Company that for many, many years we sold more policies at Forrester's in Canada than any other insurance company in the world. Some incredible people when I would go out there, have a great time. One time I read in it, I bought an RV. I went from LA to Miami to Toronto to San Francisco, back to LA. We had such good times in Toronto. I am so disappointed in a lack of fight that Pierre showed outside of just getting on mainstream media. You had such a big opportunity. Canadians, hold your candidates accountable. There is no such thing as competition that is going to be handed to you in no space, not business, not politics, not sports, not church, not military, in nothing. What a disappointing of a performance by a candidate to not show up. What a disappointing of a performance. I'm not even Canadian. I shouldn't give a shit. And I'm like, he should go on that show. Canadians are texting me, hey, what do you think about this guy? He's great, but he's not working hard enough. Well, what do you mean you should give him a second chance? He's not working hard enough. Give me a flipping break. You had an opportunity to get in there and change the policies up. No, you didn't. You need a fighter, man, no matter what the place is. Anyways, I can't believe we're going to finish on Canada. We're going to finish on Canada. That's what we're going to be doing, right? Yeah. To all the Canadians out there, we love you. And hold them accountable. And I have a feeling he will never come on the podcast. Pierre will never come on this podcast. Never come on this podcast, because he wants to only go to places that's controlled. It's these politician control safe places they want to go to. So there you go. Hold them accountable. Anyways, gang, today's what, Rob? Today's
Thursday.
Today's Thursday. Do we have anything going on tomorrow, Rob, or no?
We do not. Next week, Tuesday, we'll be back live.
Tuesday, we'll be back live. Is the whole situation, right, with next week, Tuesday?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So stay tuned. We got some stuff that's going on. Rob Smith, if you can pull up I'm going to say Gargullo. If you can pull up Smith's QR code to his Manek. Pull up his QR code to his Manek. Go out there and send a Manek to Rob. Whatever questions you liked, what he said, what questions you got, follow-ups, send him a Manek. He is on Manek. Rob Smith, QR code. Do we have the QR code or no, Rob?
I do not, but we will put it in the chat.
We'll have
the
it
link.
for next time. We'll put the QR code at the bottom as well. It's been great having you on again.
No,
great
it's been great being here. And if you guys liked me, if you like what you heard, definitely go download my podcast, Can't Cancel Rob Smith, Apple Podcasts, iHeart Podcasts, wherever you find your podcasts. And if you hit me up on Connect, I talk about building a social media brand from 0 to 1.6 of my own personal brand. I talk about fitness.
1.6 million, yeah.
I talk about a whole lot of stuff. So definitely Connect me.
And by the way, maybe Connect him and have Pierre go on his podcast because Pierre won't be canceled is if he goes on the podcast. What a freaking situation there. God bless everybody. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.